Mr. Clerk, it's 7:02. I'll call this meeting to order. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Kim, seconded by Councillor Gilliland. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Any declarations of pecuniary interest?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On item 4, I won't be participating as my husband works for the fire department.
Thank you, Councillor. Any others? Not seeing any others. We have no delegations. Any public consult? We have, well, number 4 is public consultation, open session, opportunity for members of the public to provide input regarding the 2019 budget. Would any members of the public like to come forward? Seeing none. Before I move to considerations of items, I just wanted to start with quickly speaking to some of the preliminary discussions that I've had with each of you, as well with each of the organizations and partners about the operational budget. In the discussions that I've had, I've made clear my belief that this council should take a pause when it comes to considerations of increased funding requests, and that for this budget cycle, council should not approve any increase or additional funding requests. Now, in my discussions with staff and with each of you, there's been some support for the idea of allowing this council time to reevaluate how funding requests are put forward, reviewed, and ultimately approved. And most important, there is support for the need to develop a policy that provides a clear, consistent, and equitable funding request model. Now, I think we can all agree, and as I've said before, that it is our responsibility to ensure that there is value and benefit to every taxpayer dollar that's spent. And while I will respect the decision of the majority of council, it is my sincere hope that we will collectively utilize this opportunity to create a better funding request policy and ensure a level playing field going forward. Now, I will remind council that we have and will continue to hold staff to a very high standard when it comes to how tax dollars are spent. And so I hope that we will also hold anyone and any organization to that same high level of standard. So now, before we get into those presentations and items, I'd also ask our CAO, there's been some conversations that some things have been approved during this operating budget already. So maybe, Mr. CAO, if you can just kind of explain how the operating budget process moves forward, when we have approved and when we will approve items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the operating budget deliberations that are now underway are the first step basically is to run through the individual operating budgets on a page-by-page basis. Although a motion is passed at the end of each section, which tentatively approves what has been presented, the entire budget is open until the very final night. And normally what happens is the final budget committee would consider any outstanding items or any new motions or directions that council may want to give staff. And even that isn't final in the sense that until it comes to a council meeting and is ratified as the budget, only then can the budget be deemed to be passed.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. All right, so we'll move into considerations of items. First, we have the Aurora Historical Society Board in regards to the 2019 operating grant, and it will be presented by Erica Baird, Executive Director and Curator, and John Green, President. You will have 15 minutes. 15. Did you need more? If you do, we'll be lenient. We'll allow it. I'm sure council will waive it and allow for more. So. Oh.
Go ahead and say I did send a corrected slideshow. It doesn't seem to be here, and I deeply apologize for the fact that it says Aurora Historical Society, and I'm going to. And that
that's a new town there.
I did send it. There seems to be a bit of a miscommunication, so if there's any other errors, that would be my mistake, and I deeply apologize for that. I'm rather embarrassed.
So, good evening. My name is John Green. I'm the president of the Aurora Historical Society, and I want to thank the Mayor and the councillors for listening to us this evening and looking at our requests and hopefully you're going to be smiling all the way through this. So my right-hand person here is Erica, who's the Executive Director of the AHS, and a super person she is, believe me, as you'll see a little later in this presentation. So I will attempt to present the overall view of AHS and what it's looking for from the council and some of the things that it does, and hopefully you will support us in doing this by your generous contributions. So what I'd like to do is to first of all see if this works. Do I press which button? There's 5 on there. Oh, that one. Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm going to read the mission statement. You all have it in front of you, but for those that can't read from the back here, the mission statement from the Aurora Historical Society is to preserve, interpret, and promote the social, cultural, and material heritage of the community of Aurora for the education, enrichment, and enjoyment of present and future generations. So I'm going to ask you to commit that to memory, please, because of the ongoing presentation. And I'm going to say that what it does, it reflects the endeavors of the Aurora Historical Society and what we're trying to achieve for those people that live in and around Aurora. We couldn't achieve any of this without many of our supporters, which include yourselves. So with that, I'd like to pass it over to our Executive Director to give you the next phase.
So as John said, today we'll be going through our annual request for support. We will recap our 2018 accomplishments, and we will review our plans for 2019. So to start off with, we have here, this is a list of our goals as an organization for the year 2019. We made it a little bit more concrete this year based off of past years. We're looking to plan and implement over 75 programs, 4 historical exhibitions, one of which is currently up in the house right now. It's a partnership between the town's Aurora Museum and Archives and ourselves, so we're really proud of that. Communicate with our members, provide at least 3,900 hours in volunteer opportunities, which is wonderful. Accession our artifacts, that's always continues to be a main part of our programming. Welcoming visitors to Hillary House, reaching out to the community through outreach programs, and begin work identified in our new strategic plan. This is work that was identified in a report by ERA Architects, very well referred heritage architectural firm in Toronto, and they identified over $170,000 worth of work that needs to be done to Hillary House within the next 3 to 5 years in order to keep maintaining the house at its current standard. So with all of these functions looking forward to in 2019, that brings us to the request of $76,000 as it's listed in the agenda there. Now, when I had first spoken with town staff, we didn't fully, weren't instructed until a little late that we were supposed to keep it at the party line from last year, so that does reflect the cost of living increase, which reflects the cost increases in our own costs. There's an additional request regarding the Godfrey Collection. The Godfrey Collection is a very extensive and important research collection. It was valued at over $500,000 when we were given it in about 2000, and it is a research and collection studying early Canadian history and early medical history. It involves some very rare and interesting books, early dating from the 1790s to the 1980s, and it's our goal for this collection to be usable for the people in Aurora and beyond for anybody looking to study these subjects. Currently, we had to shift it around. It was originally, when we got it stored in the Aurora Library. It was then moved to the Armory, and last year when it was taken from the Armory, because of the renovations, we then had to put it into an off-site storage facility that's costing the Society $3,500 per year. So that's the additional request, is to store this extremely important collection. We are working with ourselves and speaking with other groups to potentially have it stored in a setting where it can actually be used. The picture here is about 400 of 2,000 books that the collection contains, and we would really like those to be more accessible to the public.
Thank you, Erica. The next slide you see up there is the top picture. Of course, everybody knows this is 22 Church Street, and it's the cultural center as we know it today. And this is where AHS really got started. And in fact, in our audience today, there's Dr. Leslie Oliver, and he was the man responsible for us being here today. So if you disagree with it, you're going to have to talk with him, okay? And that was about 1981, I think. So let's say that's where it all started. You'll see at the bottom, there's a picture of Hillary House in the glorious summer days. It looks gorgeous then, and it's not too bad when it's cloaked in snow, but that's our current headquarters. This is what we have to maintain so that we can work there without rain pouring through the roof, and we have rodents running around, etc. But other than that, it's something we call home today. There we are. And this is named as the National Historic Site. And there are 8 other sites that have been named by the province, by the federal government, being a National Historic Site. But this is a living example of the town's history. It's a place where visitors can look back and see what it used to be like many years ago. It needs constant repairs and reconstruction. I know you've heard this, but I believe that you tell people, you tell them again, then you tell them what you told them, so that they really understand. So all site decisions are governed by the Ontario Heritage people and Parks Canada. So we have official government people constantly peering over our shoulder and telling us what needs to be done and how to do it, but they don't necessarily give us the money to do it. Erica.
Oh, wrong button. Thank you, John. And there's a lot of things we get to do with that fabulous building. So this is just a list of our 2018 highlights. I won't go through all of them, but I will emphasize a couple that I think are very important. The first at the top of the list is 100 years of armistice. As you all know, last year we celebrated 100 years from the armistice ending the First World War. We spent 3 years honoring the First World War with exhibitions, events, and sharing the history of the town, of the townsfolk who participated in the war. In 2018, we did Canada, Star of the Empire, our final exhibition. We were honored to work with the Aurora Museum and Archives and the Aurora Cultural Center on a reflection of on Armistice 100 years later. And we were lucky to work with the 2799 Army Cadet Corps and the Aurora Museum and Archives on the Candlelight Vigil event, which I know I saw some of you at, and it was just a really fabulous event. We continued our speaker series. We did our newcomer walking tours in partnership with the Aurora Public Library, which participated in town events, including the home show and, not the home show, sorry, Tours Open. And we started our summer camps again for the first time in many, many years, which was a really exciting thing. And I gotta be honest, the kids loved it, and it was fabulous to have them there. We also got to work with a large number of partners in 2018, including our partners here today, the Aurora Cultural Center, the Aurora Public Library, as well as the town's own Aurora Museum and Archives. And we're always very lucky to work with those that we do. And it brings on a new level for us where we get to expand, work with amazing people, and I think it really boosts any event that is done by more than one group, really gets a great boost, and I'm always honored when any of these groups would like to work with us.
So moving on to last year's funding highlights. So in order to fund the appetite of operations and repairs, together with new programs, we rely on grants from the town as of Aurora, government input, and other revenue generating sources, such as the ones you see before you. The Victory Ball is our main generation of funding from during the year, and I believe I'm right in saying that it was $28,000 we made from the last Hillary Ball that we put on in King Valley Golf and Country Club. As you can see, there's a Community Museum operating grant, the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Our gift shop, by the way, has been expanded to twice the size as it used to be, and therefore it does generate more revenue. We have an annual appeal going out to all of our members, and of course there's Mother's Day tea. So we expect all the mothers to show up for the next Mother's Day tea. Erica.
Next before you are a few of our key performance metrics from 2018, just to give you an idea. Over 2,000 people were welcomed to Hillary House. We communicated, and the outreach number is a rather rough number. It's hard to keep track, but that's the number that we counted, about 1,500 through the year. Our online followers are up and rising, as is our web traffic. We consider our website very important. In 2015, we completely revamped it because we understand that Hillary House isn't always accessible for people to come to us to learn about history. So by having a strong online presence, we are able to make sure that history is accessible to all, and we continue to strive for that. We maintained over 300 members in 2018, and our volunteer hours were continue to rise, and we did the math and we figured that that number of volunteer hours is equivalent to over 2 full-time staff, and with a staff of only 1 full-time and 2 part-time, that is a huge boost to our organization, and we absolutely could not do what we do without them. So thanks, guys. Just briefly on our landscaping, I really like this picture because it really drastically shows the work that our landscaping committee did in 2018. The top picture being May of 2017 and the lower picture being July of 2018. Thanks to Dr. John Bear and Lisa Dwyer for their work there. Getting rid of the junipers kind of cleared away the front of the house, and thank you to the town for providing the beautiful hanging baskets that really liven us up every year.
Okay, moving on to 2018 highlights from that year. With the aid of our volunteers that put in many, many hours and some real experts, we expanded our gift shop. The office was renovated to something that you haven't been there for the last 6 months. You'll see a wonderful transformation. And as Erica just described, our landscaping is coming along very, very well, and we're looking to do more with that through our 5-year strategic plan. Now, heritage, we're very, very strong advocates of heritage, and I might say that there are 3 of our board members that belong to the town's heritage committee, so we really are deeply into that. I'd like to continue by saying we have a vision, and a vision is a dream with action. Much like Library Square that the town has, and that's moving along nicely. So as an example of the strategic plan highlights, we are now looking at having a parking lot at the lower end of the Hillary House property. This property belongs to the town, and we're asking that they allow us to use it for a peppercorn rent. And the idea would be to allow buses, as in school buses, tour buses, etc., and people to park there in safety rather than try and come in from Yonge Street, which is, at the best of times, very, very dangerous. So with this parking lot, and a pathway leads from there to enable people that are handicapped to come up to the house, and a couple of other buildings that we plan to put there. Or one we have it on the property right now, which is the carriage house, and it's a fine example of the way the doctors used to live with their horses, hay and carriages and sleighs for the winter time. But there's also another picture that you've seen. It's just right outside here. It's the Petch House. It's had a number of suggestions, but what to do with it. The last one I saw was in the Auroran newspaper, which suggested it would be a centre for cannabis distribution. But we believe we've got a much better idea. We'd like to move it to the Hillary House property and run programs, gardens of the pioneer type, and it would engage people, seniors and whatnot, that love gardening, and the produce could be taken and given out to those people less fortunate than we are. So that's what I'd like to see, and that's what our plan is. So over to you, Erica.
Thank you, John. So now the numbers. I know that when I switched the slideshows and that this is the incorrect one, there is a typo under 2017 audited in the first row, revenue from fundraising, events, and donations. 2017 was not $8,000, it was $68,000. So apologies for that. But the line I'd like to point out the most would be the lower line, operating surpluses and deficits over the last 3 years, 2 years unaudited, 1 year 2 years audited, 1 year audited, unaudited, and one next projection. You'll notice that we've run a pretty healthy budget the last few years, slight deficits, but for a not-for-profit, that's really practically break it even. But if you look at 2018 and 2019 projected, we are looking at a bit of a surplus. I'd like to point out that I said at the beginning of the presentation, we have $170,000 of work on Hillary House alone that needs to be done in the next years. Any surplus earned by the Society, which includes money earned from our fundraising events as well as our granting opportunities, goes directly, a portion of it goes directly into that fund to do the work to the house. So while you see the concept of us making $6,800 in 2018 and $9,000 in 2019. That's not money in our pocket that's going to sit there. That's money that's going directly back into Hillary House, and that's, I think, really important to emphasize. And just to get an idea, I've done a bit of a chart here, which came out kind of oddly, of our revenues for 2018, just to get an idea of where we're coming from, including, you can see, the town would fall under that 58% from government funding. Now, that's not just the town of Aurora, that also includes federal and provincial money. I did do a bit of research to try and give you a comparison to other historic sites and museums. That was not very helpful, as they range from getting 0% of their funding from government to 98%. So, but I just thought it would be a very helpful to have a visual to kind of see where we're coming from. And that would be all.
So, thank you very much indeed for your attention, and hopefully your thoughts will be kind as we move on, and we look forward to your input to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erica and John. If you can just hold a minute, I'm going to ask the councillors if they have any comments or questions for you specifically before we actually move into the item. Is there any questions? Councillor Gartner.
Thank you. So where is Dr. Godfrey's collection being stored now? And some of the books are very old. Is it climate controlled?
Yes, the oldest of the books are stored in Hillary House, in the shelves that were depicted in that slide, and so the books from 1790s are there. So they're stored. About 400 books are there. We have roughly 200 books in our in the space that is our gift shop, where we have to put big signs saying not for sale. The rest is in an off-site storage facility. It's in Newmarket. We have been given a deal by the owner, luckily, as he's supports what we do, but it still does cost us something. It is climate controlled. It is in an interior storage space. We were very particular about that. We didn't want anything that wasn't heated and cooled. We didn't want anything that was not directly against an exterior wall. We wanted it on the inside. And then I go minimum once a month to check on the collection to make sure that it continues to be in good condition, and there's not even dust on the boxes. It is very well kept there, so we do monitor that very closely. If I were to find anything amiss at any visit, I would directly inform the owner of the company, and I would increase my visits quite a bit.
Councillor Gardner?
And thank you. And what's stored now at Hillary House, the oldest of the texts?
Yeah, so it's some of the oldest of the texts. We made sure to pull those out. When it was moved from the armory, we didn't have a full picture of what was in them, so we brought everything to Hillary House. All the boxes were gone through, including a lot of the documents. We have some historic documents that go with the collection, probably about 50 boxes in addition to the books. And those were gone through and stored either at Hillary House, depending on their condition, or in the storage facility.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. And we can thank Murray Koffler for introducing Dr. Godfrey to Hillary House and the collection.
Yes, absolutely. And Dr. Godfrey, he's actually still alive, living in Toronto. He's 101, and we are very grateful to him for giving us this collection.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Thank you both for being here this evening, and congratulations on your successes in 2018. Just a few questions. I think first, we've talked last year, we talked about it, this year again, about the importance of, adhering to standards and fiscal accounting. And so I know last year, myself and another member of council, Councillor Jeff Tom, had asked for a line-by-line budget, had asked for a little bit more detail with regards to the presentation. I don't see it here again this evening, so I'd like to make a formal request for that line-by-line budget again. Perhaps you could, as a follow-up, send it to our acting director of finance, and he can submit it to us again. Because while I appreciate the key performance metrics in the 3 lines, I know that if staff were to present that to us, the first thing we would be asking for is an accounting of that and a breakdown, and so we'd appreciate it again.
Erica?
I'll speak with our treasurer regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Memberships. It's something that I've seen year after year since being on council, and I know you've struggled to grow memberships. It's currently, as you said, at 301. Can you speak to why, in a community of 60,000, it's a challenge for you to grow memberships to a higher number?
Erica?
Well, that is one of our most, the board has spoken very actively regarding gaining new members, and part of that is, I think, our visibility in the community. People don't always realize that we're there, unfortunately, which we're really strongly working on. And one of our main drives for this year is to create a membership committee and to speak with our members about what makes Hillary House and the AHS important to them, so that we can reflect that in our membership opportunities.
Great, because I know in the metrics you showed in terms of social media and some of those aspects, your numbers are significantly higher, and it's just about, I guess, converting them into true members and therefore supporting your organization financially. And so, it'd be great to see that number grow. My final question really for you is in May of 2018, Council passed a standard funding agreement, in which in principle we were asking all organizations that will be funded by the town to enter into those agreements, and within those agreements was the standards for reporting and so forth. Are you aware of that policy change by Council in 2018?
No.
Erica?
So
No, we were not aware. It was mentioned just a short while ago, but by that time the presentation had been put together, and we'd never seen the thing in writing, or I'd never seen it.
Great. I'll certainly ask staff to follow up with you and provide it to you. But for example, it's just talking about consistency. So one of the things that, this council has talked about in the past is, that in terms of transparency, about having your budget online, having board minutes, just a standard framework from which we ask of all organizations. I know years ago, the Cultural Center, it was a big conversation at that time, and they've done a great job in producing that kind of information, making sure that the public's well aware of the actions that they're doing and how the money's being spent, and certainly would encourage you to take a look at their website as a guide or a barometer to what we'd be looking for, at least I would, from yourself as well.
So essentially, you're looking for a financial statement with all the line items,
Well,
revenue, expenses, etc.
So certainly for myself, for this budget process, yes. But I think ongoing, I think it's important that for the public to be able to go to the AHS's website and be able to get information like your budget, like your board minutes and your audited statements or your financial statements, because at the end of the day, it's taxpayers' money. And so I think that there should be an ability for them to see how that money is being spent. so that, there's no questions to be asked.
Sure, as a publicly funded organization, then the public has a right to see what's going on.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Currently, anybody who requests any of that information, it is available, but we can look into possibly keeping it on the website so it's a bit more public.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. It always amazes me how much you do with so little, and that other levels of government really don't help very much. I had questions, but my colleague to my right asked them all, so I won't waste any of your time.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you both for coming out tonight. I just wanted to ask regarding, I always thought that Hillary House was a gem, but it's as I think you've mentioned earlier, that it's hard to, market the Hillary House just because of its, the entrance and exit way. And with that said, can you give us an update as to the funding on the pathway leading to the parking lot from the Hillary House?
I can.
John?
Yes, we did 2 years ago. We made an application to the Trillium funding, and we were told that it at the time would qualify, and so we went through a lot of work putting together the various items they were looking for and costing and so on, and we went downtown to present this. The way the Trillium funding worked at the time was every submission was given, at the various points in the submission was given a number of points. And then at the end of the day, the points were added up, and those people with the highest number of points got the funding that they were looking for until the money ran out, and then we happened to be below that line. So we are going back to the Parks Canada, and we're going to go back to Trillium for a different type of a view of this, and we're confident that we should be able to get funding from either of those organizations to be able to fund the pathway from the car park, because of course without the pathway the car park is inaccessible.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you. Can you give us a rough timeline as to when you expect a response back from the potential funding sources?
I think Erica can give you a much better idea of actually response time from these organizations as she deals with them on an ongoing basis.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure at this point, but I can definitely look into that for you. I know you emailed that last week.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I wasn't able to look into it in that time, but I can definitely make those inquiries and get back to you on that.
Okay. Great. And my last question is, I know you guys have a robust programs in terms of exhibits and educational programs. And, normally, and I'm sure this is the same case here with Hillary House, is that they're all tied with your strategy and the business plan. Can you tell me how the exhibits and the educational programs, can you give us some highlights in terms of what has worked and what perhaps has not, in terms of from a business perspective or from your strategic perspective?
Yeah, so what we do with any of our programs when we go to test it, we usually do a small event and see how it goes and then continue to push from there. For example, the speaker series was brought back in 2015 very lightly with 1 or 2 small events to see how they go, and then it went successfully and then pushed on. And today our speaker series completely is self-funding. It generates enough funds on its own to continue running, so that is not actually something that dips into our budget at all, because it's self-sustaining, and we continue to do that with each of our events to do a budget and make sure that that is the case. We do strive to provide education to the public, and not all of our events can be 100% looking at the funds, but if they can maintain themselves, that's definitely a goal for us. The speaker series being one of the most successful. The summer camp, for example, as well, we're expanding to 2 weeks in 2019 because it was a success in 2018, both for the kids. They had a great time. They learned a lot, but it was also a financial success that earned the society some revenue. So we look at those aspects when we plan any of our programs.
Councillor Kemp?
Thank you. So, just to dig a little bit deeper, so things like, you know, the road to Vimy, or you guys had an exhibit about, you know, the toilet and how it's progressed over the years last year. When you guys have these exhibits or educational programs, do you guys put metrics in terms of tying it with your strategic plan and your business plan, and determine whether it was successful or not? Do you have a look back and review each of your programs?
Yes, we review it's a combination of reviewing how many people came in through the door. We try and get some intangible feedback as well. It's not just about the numbers. We want to make sure that those who did come, enjoyed and learned, and that they benefited from it. And after each event and exhibit, especially this time of year, we go through. I have this big spreadsheet that outlines everything, looking at how much it cost and how many people it brought in. It's harder to tell with exhibitions, because some people come in specifically to see the exhibits, and some people come in to see the house in general. So it's a bit of a balance there. We do try and make notes on that, but we're working on that as well. And then if an event was determined, if we look back and we found that there wasn't enough people, if people weren't interested, if we didn't earn enough revenue, then that's something that we wouldn't repeat. We make sure that we push forward with things that are successful, and while we're not afraid to try new things, we want to make sure that we're serving the community properly and being responsible.
Councillor Kemp?
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. Many of mine have been asked. Just you mentioned earlier about wanting the pet house on the property. Has there been any discussions with staff at all on that, or?
We're just proposing it as a conversation. So.
As a conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had some discussions with staff and with His Worship the Mayor and Doug, our CAO, and their response was very positive. Obviously, things like, are there any other plans for it? There doesn't appear to be any, but looking at what we could use it for, I think we'd be at the top of the list.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good place. It should be more public accessible, and we can certainly put it to good use for sure. Yes.
Well, thank you. I just think it's a great idea. So thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gilliland, before I go to you, I just want to ask one question of Mr. Green. Mr. Green, I'm just going to ask what I asked when we did meet in my office and we did discuss the Petch House. And I asked you a question specifically if the town did decide to move the Petch House and bring it over to where the Hillary House currently sits, would the AHS be willing to forego any funding so that we could pay for the moving of that property?
That didn't register with me.
And so you answered it the same way tonight as you did in my office, so thank you. I appreciate that. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and giving this really great presentation. I think Councillor Thompson had mentioned a line by line would be very helpful. In addition, maybe a little historical data on some of that to see the kind of year over year and how that might reflect. I was going to ask some questions about Petch House, but definitely were already asked by Mayor Marakis and Councillor Humphreys. But I was curious as to your percentage of your partnership is really evolved around the York Board of Education. I noticed they were listed as a partner, and you have quite an extensive curriculum base, and I just was wondering how much of that visitation surrounds that.
So our partnership, reason we list the York Board as a partner, it's through a couple different programs. Partially we have the students coming in, still not as many as we like. It is an issue that a bus cannot access Hillary House. Those that have attended are usually schools within walking distance, and they'll walk down. What we are looking to do is expand to going into the schools, which is a program that we offer. We're also working very closely with the school board owns a heritage schoolhouse, and we're working very closely with the staff there, as well as the staff at the Aurora Museum and Archives, because they work together to create the Heritage Fair every year that's held in the SARC. So we participate in the Heritage Fair by running one of the workshops, as well as this year we've expanded to going into the schools and teaching about the Heritage Fair to assist, because the school board used to do it on their own, but to helpful to have museums and local sites go into the schools, talk about heritage, how to do research, how to go do research at your local museums, etc. So that's what we've been working with on them.
Okay, and do they give you some sort of revenue for that, or is this something that is funded by?
We do get a percent. There's a fee for that, for us to go into the schools for that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Thompson, second time.
Thank you. Through you to the delegates. Sorry, just one more question with regards to the Godfrey collection. In our budget tonight, it says that one of the recommendations is that the request for one-time funding assistance for the storage of the Godfrey collection be to be provided to the Aurora Society, and the amount of $3,500 be received. If memory serves me correct, though, last year you made a request for the funding. So again, it's I guess just semantics, but it's not one-time funding. We've funded this in the past.
Yes, I'm not sure where the terminology for one-time funding came, but it was funded last year, which is when it was first brought there. And we are, as I mentioned, working on hopefully a plan where we would not continue to ask for that additional funding, but we're not at that point yet. So until that time comes, we will probably be requesting that.
Thank you. I just remember it was a special request. I just couldn't remember if we actually said yes or no to it, so that's why I was wondering. But you clarified that we did fund it last year, so thank you.
Yes, it was funded last year. I believe that was done sometime in the spring of last year. It was separate from the annual budget meeting.
Probably council contingency, if some memory serves me
Something like
right.
that,
Thank
yes.
you.
I'm seeing no other questions. Thank you, Erica and John.
And thank you.
So, Council, if I can get a motion to receive 1, 2, and 3. Moved by Councillor Gilliland, seconded by Councillor Kim. Is there any comments to these? Right now, we're just receiving them and just moving them to basically to the end of our budget, where we will be dealing with all these items once we get a full picture of the complete operational budget. So if there are any comments, I'll take them at this time. If not, we'll just call the vote. All those in favor of receiving? Opposed? That carries. Okay, next, number 2, the Aurora Cultural Center Board in regards to the 2019 operating grant. Presentation by Karen Johnson, Secretary of the Board of Directors, and Suzanne Haynes, the Executive Director. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about our 2018 review and our 2019 budget request. My name, as Mayor Marakis already mentioned, is Karen Johnston. I serve as the Secretary for the Board of the Aurora Cultural Center. I'm here speaking on behalf of Craig Mather and Eric Acker, as they're both presently out of the country. They serve as our Board President and Vice President. I'm joined this evening by Laura Hostick, our Treasurer, Heidi Franken, our past Treasurer, as well as several other Board Directors. I'm also joined by Suzanne Haynes, our Executive Director, who will make our detailed presentation this evening. When we presented our budget to the Budget Advisory Committee and Council in 2017, we identified that we were in a transition year. We were in the process of hiring our new Executive Director, finalizing our 4-year strategic plan, as well as maintaining our daily operations. It was a challenging year. But with board and staff working cohesively, we made the transition seamless. Since that time, we have undergone a transformational change, led by our exceptionally competent and highly dedicated Executive Director, Suzanne. Suzanne championed the completion of our 4-year strategic plan, developed new and expanded programming to meet the strategic plan goals along with new KPIs. She also completed an organizational review, ensuring that our existing staff structure could effectively deliver against efficient program delivery. At the same time, she ensured the staff in the organization were being treated equitably by implementing a performance review process, as well as undertaking a salary study. The organization and the board have worked closely together to continue to make governance, organizational transparency, and fundraising core priorities of the organization. As a board, we are focused on succession planning and ensuring that we, as directors, have the appropriate skill sets to effectively meet the organization's needs. The board and staff have worked closely to ensure we maintain strong relationships with town council and staff, as well as with other cultural partners in Aurora. The board and organization staff are very enthusiastic supporters of the new town square, and we are anxious to help with new plans in any way possible. Finally, by continuing to meet our high-level KPIs, solid staff management, and effective board oversight, we achieved a balanced budget in 2017 and expect the same for 2018. The budget we present to you tonight is the result of a great deal of work by the board and staff over the last year and a half. We are committed to supporting the town's goals and at the same time growing with a most recent very generous donation by a local resident that will help ensure our center can reach as many as 4,000 students in our community. Thank you for your time this evening. At this point, I'd like to pass the presentation over to Suzanne to highlight the details of the wonderful year we've had, as well as to present to you our unique proposal for 2019.
Thank you, Karen. Mayor Marakis, members of Aurora Town Council, and guests. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the Aurora Cultural Center staff, it's my pleasure to take you through the 2018 year in review and our budget presentation. We'll start by talking about the Aurora Cultural Center vision, mission, and core values, as they were reviewed and renewed in our 2018 to 2021 strategic plan, and then talk about 2018 and finally 2019. The board contemplated the vision for the Aurora Cultural Center operations and the future and established this vision for the organization. The mission was also reviewed, and each word was chosen carefully to describe a mission that focuses on professional programming, valued partnerships, positive impact on the community, inclusivity in practices, and a directed mandate for our partnership with the town as a cultural service provider through our long-standing agreement. Core values were proposed and chosen as integral elements for everyday decision-making by staff, volunteers, and the board. They are excellence, collaboration, and accountability. Current programming covers a broad spectrum of activities. This list is what we do. We also wrote a programming vision to talk about why we do it, and I will share it with you as we move through the review of 2018. The Aurora Cultural Center is a vibrant cultural hub that brings communities together. It is a gathering space for creative energy and expression. We believe the arts have the power to engage, inspire, and transform each and every person who experiences it. The arts spark creative thought, transforms perception, and provides a catalyst for conversation. It engages the mind and body, awakens the senses, and calms the spirit. The Aurora Cultural Center welcomes, shares, and celebrates diversity. We champion the extraordinary, praise innovation, and honor history. We look for truth, beauty, and delight while allowing darkness, struggle, and deep affectations to be present and consumed, knowing that as we care for each other in moments of response, we create social inclusion and stimulate memories. We believe music is a universal language that bridges cultures and is a fundamental necessity for our spirits as social beings. We invite the sounds of voice and instruments, loud and soft, large and small, fast and slow, precise, moving, and excellent, to wash over us, allowing us to feel every human emotion. We had 19 professional performances in Breivik Hall. In classical music, we introduced pre-show talks and demonstrations made possible by individual donors in our Fortissimo fundraising campaign. Here we have Cameron Crosman talking about playing the 1769 Bonjour Stradivari cello on loan to him for 2018 through the Canada Council for the Arts Musical Instrument Bank. The Aurora Cultural Center believes theater reflects the stories of exquisite joy, comedy, and anguish of what it means to live in this world. It is cathartic to have a shared intimate arts experience. We believe in building, telling, and preserving the stories of our lives to illustrate our similarities and our differences. We engage in difficult conversations, and in doing so, bring communities together. The Meridian Magic Carpet is a new series that we introduced in 2019 for toddlers and their families, sponsored by Meridian. A huge success. This kind of programming for toddlers 18 months and up is the first of its kind in York Region. 2 productions round out the series in 2019. The Aurora Cultural Center welcomes visual art from all cultures in all its forms, colors, ideas, and sizes. We believe there is a spiritual value to what the artist chooses to communicate to others, as everyone has a deeply personal response to art. We seek out the highest quality in order to inspire the community. We had 9 exhibitions across the 4 galleries with emerging and established professional artists, student art in the Mayor's Celebration of Youth Arts, and a community pro-am show with the Society of York Region Artists. We also reworked our relationship with SOIRA in 2018 and developed a juried exhibition in 2019. Galleries are always free to the public. We invite new ideas, new voices, new cultures, new language into our space. As we remember our past, we stimulate the minds of our youth and build more for the future. We foster imagination and as we build creative humans. We encourage all to try, and if they fail, to learn and try again. Our education program hosted 69 classes, workshops, and camps for 766 students from the ages of 4 and up. In addition to our regular adult classes, we also host free educational events called Ways of Seeing for each gallery exhibition. These are free to the community and grew in popularity in 2018. The Aurora Cultural Center brings families together to discuss, celebrate, enjoy, grow, discover passions, and understand each other, and inspire new outcomes. We build alliances and unique partnerships to deliver more to the community. We provide a meaningful, open, and welcoming environment for residents to give back to the community. We hosted 5 free community events in 2018. March break, we hosted Crafternoon, which had so much interest we had to have families in the holding areas of all 4 galleries while they waited to participate. The community sing-along, We'll Meet Again, happens in June every year for an audience of seniors. Doors Open was in August, where we hosted the Scarborough Model Train Society in Brevic Hall and received a visit from a former student of the Church Street School, something we cherish every time it happens. In fact, we asked her if she wanted to ring the bell, but she declined. Culture Days is an annual national event in September. In 2018, we participated with a very successful drumming session with the community. And lastly, we hosted an event celebrating the 100th anniversary of Armistice with cadets reading letters and music from the era in collaboration with the Aurora Museum and Archive and the Aurora Historical Society, as you've heard. The Aurora Cultural Center seeks excellence and offers collaboration, and we are accountable always. In 2018, we reapplied for accreditation with the Trustmark of Imagine Canada, a national standards program for not-for-profit governance in Canada. The Aurora Cultural Center was one of the first organizations to be accredited in 2013, and we continue to hold this Trustmark for our operations. The standards test the Board of Directors' integrity in governance, financial accountability and transparency, fundraising policies, practices, and transparency, human resource management, and volunteer management. These next several slides cover key performance indicators outlined in our Provision of Cultural Services Agreement, which we report to the town annually. The volunteer program is a significant part of our operations, and we rely on the support of the community members who donate their time to us to help us with administrative and event-related activities. We have approximately 30,000 people who come through the building on an annual basis. The number was lower in 2018 due to greater competition in the market for summer camps, having to close the building 4 times in the year due to power outages and weather conditions, and 2 rentals that outgrew us and moved to a larger venue, which resulted in 1,500 fewer visitors to the center. 2019 has started off well with a 12% increase in visitors for our programs. This graph shows how the program revenues have fared over the last 4 years. Gallery exhibitions and Ways of Seeing educational events are free to the community and therefore are not a revenue source. However, this graph shows gallery art sales and gallery tours. Facility rentals subsidize our professional arts programming for the community. This slide shows the type and volume of activity we have at the center. In 2018, we had 901 uses of the venue for events, classes, and rentals in the building. The first graph shows how the venue was activated by us and the community. Each instance is counted once. Gallery exhibitions, while up for months at a time, are each only counted once. The second pie chart shows the breakdown of direct revenue generated by these activities. Direct revenue does not include fundraising. 73% of our revenue is generated by educational arts classes, indicated in red, and live performing arts, indicated in blue. Our dependency on the town grant has been decreasing every year, and the year end for 2018 is expected to be 52%, the lowest it has ever been. This is due to growth in program revenues, private sector fundraising, and grants from other government sources. We expect this trend to continue with increased fundraising commitments and opportunities in 2019 and beyond. This graph shows the total operating budget on top compared to the town grant below in the blue line. This KPI indicates our earned revenue as a percentage of our town grant. This graph shows the percentage of the total expenses for the organization that are allocated by our auditor to be for programs versus administration. This is determined through categories of our budget and is a projection for the 2018 year end. There are several other KPIs which we report on in our annual report and are calculated in the coming months. They are related to customer satisfaction, which is collated from our annual surveys, operating data that is being gathered, and will be reported in June as outlined in our Provision of Cultural Services agreement with the town. I'll now talk about the 2019 budget. As part of our strategic plan, the board identified a number of areas of sustainability and growth for the organization. Programming goals include diversifying our programming mix to include more opportunities for audiences of different ages, employing a diversity of artists, adding programming outside the walls of the Aurora Cultural Centre, and creating new valuable partnerships. Much of this is achieved with the Kaleidoscope in the Schools program, which I'll talk about in a moment. As you heard from Karen, the board also identified key areas where support was essential to maintain current levels of programming and retain highly specialized skill sets which are required within the lean administration covering multiple program areas. Kaleidoscope in the Schools. This is a new initiative to bring live performing arts to Aurora kids in junior kindergarten to grade 4 public schools at no cost to parents. I'm going to pause here for a moment so I can give you a really clear picture of the program. The programming on the slide are all productions we are negotiating with to bring to Aurora. Red Sky, a leading company of contemporary Indigenous performing arts based in Canada, has created the hit theatrical show Mistatim for children. As 2 children search for ways to connect with the adults in their lives, some of whom have been affected by residential schools, they also learn to connect with each other as friends. At the heart of the story is the horse Mistatim, powerfully played by an athletic dancer who memorably inhabits the character of the horse. Working together, the children find respect for each other, discover the tools they need to cope with their family lives, and most of all, learn how to find and nurture trust. The string trio of Infinitus brings an upbeat performance style featuring a mix of classical standards in the canon. Based in Vancouver, the chamber group has traveled to over 900 schools through North America, introducing students to instrumental music from familiar to classical pieces, to classic rock and hip-hop beatboxing. Their shows and workshops focus on the skills and value around collaboration between peers as they listen, discover, and join in on the performing aspects of music. Théâtre de Confi, based in Quebec City, presents Les Choses Berçantes, Sisters, the Warm Embrace, a beautiful theatrical presentation which can be performed in either English or French. The story explores 2 sisters, one in sorrow and the other gently unraveling her sister's feelings through a series of funny, kind, and caring gestures. It is a wonderful validation of a child's emotions. This gentle show for 2 endearing actresses whispers in our ears that time heals all wounds and even the deepest sorrows, because in the end, tears make the flowers grow and spring will come again. By offering the production in French if requested, children in French language or immersion programs experience French as a living language and enjoy the visual elements that enhance language learning through theatrical presentations. Each production program will have ties to the curriculum. I've noted some sample of tie-ins from the productions we're considering in the 1920 season on the slide. By bringing the program into the schools, we were removing barriers to participation for all students, regardless of their situation. Students with exceptionalities do not have to leave their home school and known environment to participate. Schools don't have to work out the logistics of busing. And there's no cost, so there's no economic barriers for kids. No one is left behind. Once the show is over, the artists will stay at the school for the afternoon for an interactive activity or workshop with the kids. Not all children will be able to attend the special workshop, so age-appropriate activities will be available for teachers to use in the classroom also. We are also supporting educators with an advanced workshop to help them deepen child engagement. Elementary school teachers are generalists, and the school boards are very excited about the professional development aspect of our program to help teachers who may not have had an arts background in their studies, but are still expected to deliver on the curriculum, the arts curriculum in the school. Our workshop will help to bridge that gap and help educators to use the tools associated with each of the shows to bring creative elements into the classroom before and after the production. The full journey for the children is to have an activity in the classroom before the show, go and see the show, participate in an artist workshop or classroom activity after the show, go home and show their completed art project, talk as a family about their experience, and hopefully the family adopts an interest in supporting the child in their creativity by attending an arts event. This teaches the child that art is important and that they have a voice in their family life. We've received a commitment from the York Region District School Board and the York Catholic District School Board to participate in implementing the project if funding is achieved. I want to preface our 2019 budget request by acknowledging what Mayor Maracas outlined prior to the presentation tonight. He met with our board president and vice president to discuss an idea around reviewing the town budget process, which will require holding our budget at the 2018 level. We certainly support transparency and accountability as they are part of our values and how we operate our not-for-profit charity. There is no fear to go through a budget process with the town, as we know we currently develop, implement, and report on our operations with full transparency and accountability. And we spend every penny we have on delivering the programs in the community with the highest possible standard. We welcome the fiscal responsibility to residents that a review of the budget process proposes and support transparency and accountability in town processes. We will participate fully and openly. We also would like to see a mechanism after the review of the budget process to consider what is the minimum base funding requirements for the Aurora Cultural Center in 2019. We've done the work to identify our needs, and the result is that we need more base funding to operate the organization and leverage opportunities that come to us. Over the last month, the board caucused often and dove deep into the options of how we would show leadership at this moment when a zero increase to budgets might be passed by council. We are in an interesting place, though, for 2019, where residents of Aurora, a couple, in fact, Jan Udin and Isabel Ralston, after hearing the launch of our 18-19 season, came to talk to me about how they might be more deeply involved in a significant way as major donors. After discussing our strategic plans and programs attached to the plan, they made a commitment to the Aurora Cultural Center to fund 50% of the Kaleidoscope in the Schools program in 2019 if we could find matching funds. Because of their leadership and excitement in the community, at the school boards, and with anyone we talked to about this program, including each of you on town council, we felt compelled to bring this program forward for funding. This program brings professional arts to Aurora children with long-standing and impactful outcomes to make them better humans. However, it also has a ripple effect on our organization, where we have gained our first major donor from the community. We've increased our fundraising, which decreases our dependency on the town annually. And we expect this to be even better in 2020 with targets and fundraising we have on the radar. We have new grant funding opportunities, and with the funding requests we have tonight, we are able to restructure the organization to maintain our current programming and move the organization forward while delivering Kaleidoscope in the Schools. The board has considered at length the impact of this request, and we hope we found a way for you to consider to help us deliver on these objectives. The request is this. We are looking for a pilot grant to fund the Kaleidoscope in the Schools project for the 1920 school year. If this cannot be in the base funding where we have access to it each year, we would need a commitment of $100,000, which is $50,000 for 2019 and $50,000 for 2020. We are asking the town to commit $50,000 each year so we can secure the individual donors $75,000 and commit to the school boards for the 1920 season. This timing is important because we have to commit to artists now for the fall of 2019 and the winter and spring of 2020 so that they can set their schedules given the residency period expected. Once we know the artists can commit, we will bring this list to the school boards and their principals so that they can choose their productions and post-show activities. At this point, we can book artists for the time period they will be in residency in Aurora. The total budget for the project is $150,000 annually. The board is confident it can raise the other $25,000 needed for the project annually through grants, corporate gifts, and other individual donors. We would be happy to talk about metrics of success that the town would expect to see in order to fund the project beyond a pilot. The second part of the request is what Karen spoke about in terms of foundational needs for the organization, a conversation we've been having for a couple of years now. The board has struggled with whether to bring this request forward, given the message of zero increase and how our colleagues are presenting themselves this evening. We felt it was important to continue to present this figure because it is a base need. The board identified it would bring the request forward in 2019, and it will continue to be a need in the future, regardless of the outcome of tonight. Given that the board supports the town needs to look at the town's budget process and how much we believe in accountability in our core values, I feel the board is showing great leadership and strength in bringing forward the ask, but also being willing to fund this amount through internal sources which are earmarked for operational contingencies. It means that the contingency fund would decrease, and through risk management, the board has discussed what this means for the organization in 2020 and beyond. The board wants to give the town time and space to complete the review of the budget process, as every organization should check on processes from time to time to ensure they meet the highest standard. While there is that support from the Aurora Cultural Center, the implication for the not-for-profit charity is that in order to meet its commitment to the 2019 objectives, it must self-fund this piece of the budget if it's not funded. The board has approved the 2019 budget based on the information best at hand. This budget is in support of the growth expected from the strategic plan and the new program Kaleidoscope in the Schools to be implemented in 2019. The 2018 year ended with an extraordinary and unexpected one-time gift to support our operations with capital items, which will help the operation at the center now and into the future. This was transferred into the Special Project Reserve, which was set up to handle just such a timing issue, where funds were received but unable to be spent in the same fiscal year. Please note that these are items that we would have come to the town to fund if it were not for this gift from a resident of Aurora. It is great to see the community so impacted by our operations that they want to support us in this way. As you can see, we've noted previously our fundraising success in 2018 will be continued in 2019. We have a signed commitment from Jan and Isabel for their directed gift for Kaleidoscope in the Schools, and as I have stated, must be matched in order to be received for the program. We are requesting $50,000 from the town to support this project. We are also soliciting funds from grant providers, corporate sources, and other individual donors to support the other $25,000 in funds needed annually for the project. I note again the dependency does not increase with this additional support from the town because we can leverage additional funds and opportunities. The revenue projection does have a base increase included in the town operating grant line. The expense projection includes the expenses necessary to implement the Kaleidoscope in the School program to move forward and the full implementation of the new Meridian Magic Carpet series for 2019. 2019 office expenses include additional operating costs for IT infrastructure. All of this past and future success would not be possible without the town of Aurora's sustaining partnership. We look forward to a fabulous 2019, delivering cultural programming on your behalf through the provision of Cultural Services Agreement. Thank you for your leadership, interest, and dedication to making Aurora a vibrant and livable community with cultural programming that rivals major cities in Canada. The board, staff, and community thank you for supporting the Aurora Cultural Center. I welcome questions and comments.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Karen, as well, for that presentation. Any questions? Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for coming out and presenting. So I think the first question I want to ask was regarding the Kaleidoscope. There was a dollar-for-dollar match by Jan and Ismail, and yet you requested $50,000 ask from the town for 2019 and $50,000 for 2020. So that's $100,000. And so can you kind of put the math together for us?
Absolutely, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, what we were talking about is to look at a pilot grant, which would not be in our base funding. And so the challenge for us is that in order to commit to the school boards for the 19-20 season, we actually need funding for 19 and 20. If it was going into base funding, we wouldn't require the full amount today. Mm-hmm. But in order to secure the artists and the timing of how we are building the program and for it to successfully launch, we need the commitment today. So what you will see on the revenue slide is that, in fact, There is only $50,000 in there that's indicated for 2019. The other $50,000 that would be received as part of the commitment this evening would be deferred revenue into 2020 so that we can secure the artists. We cannot actually secure the donation unless we know that we have the funding, and that underlying funding commitment from the town is essential to make the program move forward.
Councillor Kim?
Great, thank you. And you discussed about KPIs, and in the report, it mentions activities that students and their teachers can undergo before the Kaleidoscope presentation and post presentation. And it's my understanding that the Kaleidoscope presentation or the show has been ongoing, has presented itself at the ACC in the past. At least that's what I'm reading. And so can you tell me what the pre-attendance and the post cooperation has been in terms of the feedback?
Suzanne?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The Kaleidoscope program that was initiated 5 years ago is a family program that exists at the Aurora Cultural Center. It presents 3 theatrical events at the Cultural Center. This is an extension of that. It's the same age group that we're looking at, is that JK to grade 4 group, but we're actually bringing the program out of the Cultural Center and putting it in the schools. So what will happen is that in the classroom, in advance of the presentation in the school, the teachers would take their students through an activity. So say it's a Mistatim. It might be something, a conversation around the particular Indigenous culture or dance or something that is related to the theme of the show. And then having that preamble, that activity in advance allows the students to start thinking about what they're about to see. And also they'll be aware that there will be a Q&A after the presentation, so they can start to think about what they might ask the actors and the artists, the dancer who's on stage in their school. The show will come into the school, and then after the show in that afternoon, we hope it'll be in that afternoon in every classroom, there will be an activity that is also related to the show. So there will be a small group of students who will be able to participate in a hands-on workshop. So say it's a puppetry show, they might come back and be able to do a puppetry workshop, and each of the children builds a puppet and takes it home with them. And then in the classroom, it would be more related probably to the themes. So this is actually, taking what we're doing right now at the Aurora Cultural Center and expanding it out into the schools in a bit of a different format to support what needs to happen with that full child journey. What we do at the Aurora Cultural Center right now is we do a presentation of a theatrical event, of a theatrical show, and then we do an arts and craft activity after that's related to it. So we do a similar kind of thing, but within the schools, the teachers have they have so much presence with the students that in fact they're going to be able to deepen that engagement more than we can in the performances that we do at the Cultural Center. We want to maintain that public component though, so what we want to do out of this program is really tie the two together. So some of the programming that's coming out of the Kaleidoscope in the schools will also have a public presentation if it has a kind of a commercial element to it. Something that we think we can sell tickets to, because obviously we're offering it for free in the schools, so we want to make sure that there's the broader community can have access to it as well.
Councillor Kim?
Great, thank you. And you know, specifically to the Kaleidoscope program, I mean, where I see the value in it is, before I even say where the value in it is I don't think the town is in the business of supporting education in terms of, that's not our purview. I mean, 20% of our annual budget already goes into education through the province, through our property taxes. So when we do commit our fair share of education, and so I don't believe that it's, you know, that we should put in more of our tax dollars into education per se. But I do believe that we need to support our cultural partners, and especially in terms of marketing. And I've said this, you know, 3 years ago, that, you know, we don't know the value of our cultural partners until we market them to the fullest extent. And I don't think Cultural Center, as well as our other cultural partners, we've marketed it as much as we could. And so if we could find dollars somewhere, I'd be open to it right now. but based on marketing the cultural center and the resources that it has to offer, in hopes that, you know, perhaps the York Region District School Board or other school boards be willing to be a client down the road because of the increased exposure. Perhaps principals, or you know, in their discretionary fund, or perhaps you know, we now have a trustee that's from Aurora, and they make the budget decisions. You know, we can certainly lobby them as well. So for me, this is more of a marketing opportunity of the leverage that we can use with the cultural center, and in terms with respect to educating our young ones with regards to culture. So from, you know, I don't think this would be an ongoing thing, but if we did, you know, find something, I think it'd be more of a, you know, base or one time to kind of get it off the ground. And my last question is, you know, on the Cultural Center website, it talks about rental capacity. So from a KPI perspective, and the ACC does a tremendous job of providing us with KPIs. In terms of space utility, I mean, last year we had numerous conversations about baseball diamonds and soccer fields, and their how much of their time, the field time that we're actually utilizing, the utilization time. So is there a figure or a KPI at the ACC with respect to the overall time, and how much of that time is available for rental, and how much is internal? Like, I just want to know in terms of capacity usage, where that is at.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We do report on the number of uses. So we had 221 rental instances in 2018. What we don't have right now is, you know, kind of, I guess we could do a percentage of you know, using all of those numbers of usage. There are times that no one wants to put on an event, like right after Christmas or like early in the new year, because no one wants to come out to something. So there are certain times that are less appealing. Even in the summer, we have beautiful summers here, and so we don't rent it as often, but we do have our own programming, so we augment it differently. So we've really tried to program in times when we think we will be successful in generating programming that'll be successful, and then also open up those times where I'm not allowed to actually put programs in because my operations manager says, that's the time I can rent, please don't put something in there. So certainly we have that healthy balance. Our facility rentals program does provide a subsidy to our professional programming, so it's really essential that we're able to do that as well, because otherwise that additional money we wouldn't have in order to put on the programs. If it's possible for me to say a couple of things about your other comment, is that you'll notice that I didn't say that it's you notice that I did say that it was no cost to parents. That doesn't mean that the YDRSB or the YCDRSB can't be partners in some way in this program. And in fact, we've talked about that and what that might look like for Kaleidoscope in the schools. We also talked about the difference between what we're providing in Kaleidoscope in the schools and what they are currently accessing right now. So what they access right now is they have a bullying problem in a school, and so they find an artist practitioner who has a show about bullying, and they'll go and find that, and is a local practitioner, and they'll put that show on, and it's really valuable for the kids. It's an important message, obviously. It's a very directed message. What we're doing is we're actually talking about art in more general sense. It's more about the artistic presentation, because we know that the outcomes from that are transformative in a completely different way and aren't about dealing with one specific issue, although we know that there are curriculum tie-ins and there are some character building and theme related pieces that the principals might choose a particular show because of, but we're not picking shows that are just written around that one objective. We're picking shows that have artistic quality, that have success in other schools, that have been touring, that are established programs, that have established workshops and artistic activity to inspire the kids. So we really see it as an artistic program, although there's these educational outcomes that allow the school board to buy in. So I hope you don't mind that I responded to that.
Sure, that's fine. Councillor Kemp?
Great, and thank you. And just a comment on your on my question and your response to the utilization space. And we all do acknowledge that even like baseball fields and soccer fields, 1 p.m. during the weekday, it's not going to be heavily utilized. So I do understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, and welcome, Suzanne. Certainly congratulations on all the successes of 2018. It's great to see that you continue to grow the programs and revenues and organization. Just going to Kaleidoscope for a second, I tried to do a little bit of research beforehand to see, similar programs run before. I ran across one that looks like the Scarborough Arts Council did, called Kaleidoscope in Schools back in 2013 to 2016. Do you know if it's similar to what you're proposing and/or other arts councils or organizations have put together similar programs where we can look at some of comparisons to what's been done in the past?
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not aware of their program, but I certainly will look at it. What typically has landed in the presenting world and in the producing world is where the art piece is either in a performing arts venue where the schools come. So the Flato Markham Theatre, the Richmond Hill Center for the Performing Arts both have youth programs where they invite schools in and they sell tickets. Some of it subsidized in some communities, and they see productions that will be similar to what we are programming. They don't have the pre and post activities unless the teachers adopt that on their own. There's no expectation of that, but they certainly can. That's where a bulk of the market has landed. There was a huge program, and there continues to be some funding in some districts where schools and principals can purchase art through Art Starts or Prologue programs where the artists come into the school and perform in their gymnatorium type atmosphere. Again, they don't have the educator workshop, they don't have the pre and post expectation, although they do provide study guides. So there are models that are similar and have certain elements, but we feel that we really want to impact that full child journey and ensure that every child in Aurora in the public schools has access to this. So it's a more fulsome program. There isn't something like this that exists in Ontario, as far as I know. When we spoke to the Ontario Trillium Foundation, they're quite interested in this program as well, and it is one of the areas we're going for funding. And they're interested in specifically because they want the Aurora Cultural Centre to learn whether this model works. And they have asked us to establish some metrics initially of what we want to learn about the program, and what we really want to learn is whether we've missed any barriers, whether this is transformative for the students at the end, whether it matters to the families, whether there's any increased activity, and to Councillor Kim's point, whether they understand who the Aurora Cultural Centre is after. So both of the school boards understand that we are looking to have our name in there as well. So there's a number of metrics that we have to set up for that grant, which has already been submitted, to discover whether this is a good model of delivery. And the Trillium Foundation is quite interested in that outcome. So they've indicated to us that this fulsome program does not exist.
Councillor Thompson?
And so it's great. I'll send you the link that I came across, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it because it is called Kaleidoscope. It was done in Scarborough.
Sure.
And interestingly enough, it was funded by the Trillium Grant Program back in 2013. So I think that there may be some valuable information there. As a follow-up question, and it kind of leads into your conversation about Trillium. So when I look at a program, while be it we're talking about a pilot program, I also want to look at a scope over a few years. So you talk about in the report that the cost of the program is $150,000 annually. So if I look at it over a 3-year life cycle, that means it's going to cost $450,000. You have a commitment of $75,000 from a private donor. My next question then is, how are you going to fund it year over year? Is this going to eventually come back to the town where you're going to look for us to fund the 150?
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. What we were looking for from the town is 50,000 of the 150 in that.
I understand that
Okay.
the first year, but as I look out at the horizon of the program, how are you going to fund it year over year if the annual cost is 150?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, what we were looking for was $50,000 in the base, so that would become a core part of our programming and a core part of funding from the town, because the total program is $150,000, and we were just looking for one part of it, 1/3 from the town, in order to make it sustainable funding. The donor is certainly has expressed an appetite and interest to continue to participate with us, but they're waiting to see what happens in the first year, and they're looking to see what other kind of sustainable funding programs we can be a part of. So I would say that yes, we are hoping that the town will join us in this journey and be part of the program on an ongoing basis.
Councillor Thompson?
Because, just in terms of our budget cycle, you'll be back in November asking for funds for the center for 2020. And based on what I read, really the program itself is not going to roll out until probably October 2019. So you'll have very little information to provide this council to justify the continuation of it for 2020. And we'll already have conversations about funding the program. So that's where part of my thought goes as well. Where's that money going to come from to support it if the annual cost is $150? Does that mean a sizable increase in the base funding for the cultural center 6 months, 7 months from now?
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is actually what we were hoping to come forward with tonight. But because of the messaging and certainly how we understand this necessary pause in terms of the budget process review that you're looking at, we wanted to find a way for this funding to come forward where it might be something that we can all take a chance on in the 1920 school year, so we can commit to that and look at it actually for a 2021 base, right? So we will have a lot of information by that point. So looking at the $100,000 now as a pilot, as funding that is allocated, directed to that program, won't be spent on anything else. That is, $50,000 goes into the 2019 year, and the other $50,000 is deferred to 2020, so we can cover those expenses, make the commitment now to the artists, make the commitment to the school board, even though we don't have those metrics of success right away. So we've already started a bunch of work on this in 2019 and even a little bit in 2018 when we started thinking about artists and doing some work on programming and working with the school boards in terms of trying to figure out what the logistics might look like, because they have to plan, and in fact they want to start talking to us in March about how we can move this program forward. That's why we need the commitment up front. And from our point of view, we do have the commitment from the major donor. We know that there's some funding that we have access to. We have some funding in the pipeline for the $25,000, which we don't have signed yet, but we're pretty confident that we can do that more than 1 year. And then we're asking for the town to participate in the journey with us and join us in delivering the Kaleidoscope in the schools, because it's a very different program, and I think it would be a real benefit to the town as well.
Councillor Thompson, can I just interject for 1 second? I just want to clarify one thing, because I just want to make sure everyone has an understanding. Suzanne, when you speak about a year, are you speaking about a school year or the fiscal year?
Oh, it depends on when I said it. Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. We certainly the $150,000 is our fiscal, so January to December. The school, but the program costs that much each year. What we need in terms of the commitment for the artists in 2020 is to ensure that that commitment is there, right, for the 2020 year. If we're going to commit to the school board for 1920, we need to know that there's money in both years, which is why we were initially going to come forward to council with a request for increase to the base.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson, sorry.
Great. And just quickly, you did mention that you've already, I guess, submitted an application for Trillium Foundation. Do you have a timeline when you would expect an answer?
April.
April. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you very much for coming today. I loved your presentation, and I do really love the program. I do have a couple questions about the school boards. I know Councillor Kim had touched on exactly what I wanted to talk about. And I know that we're partnering, or your intent is to partner with the school boards, but I'm really trying to understand what is the school board's commitment looking down the road. This is a pilot program. We're being asked to fund the pilot program, and I just feel like I need to see some sort of commitment down the road from the school board. It's not a free ride. At some point, I feel that they should be supporting this as well. I know when I had last spoke to you, I'd asked the question, and you were in talks with the Catholic District School Board, and I'm just wondering if that had come to fruition, if they were going to have any contribution to the program or had intent.
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your question, because certainly we did have that conversation. Both region school boards have submitted a letter of support, so they have committed to participate in the program and implement it in the schools if funding is achieved. So that's actually a big step, because organizations like Trillium won't fund you if you don't have that commitment, because they don't want to put something together and fund something that in fact won't come to fruition. It's embarrassing for everybody. We spoke to both district school boards about a contribution. And at this stage, because we are one very small portion, frankly, of their larger district, unless we were willing to look at expanding this program across the entire region, they wouldn't have funds available to it. So in terms of a financial contribution, they have not put something forward for this pilot piece. Their commitment is to help with the implementation and, in fact, allow us access to deliver the program.
Councillor Gilliland?
Have they expressed kind of after that year pilot what the opportunity could be? Because I feel like, okay, we're going to potentially invest in this opportunity for a pilot for the what if. I'd like to see or hear more like, hey, if this works, we're willing to do this. And I'm not hearing any of that. Do you have something to add or share?
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. What we understand certainly is that they're able to make a commitment for the 1920 school year, but they also have their limitations on what they would be willing to put in writing. There's a lot of appetite, interest, and excitement around what the program is. The fact that they asked us if we would deliver it to the entire region gave us an indication of their interest in the program. Obviously, we would need a much bigger budget and a lot more partners to be able to do that. But they also understood, after it took a little bit of explaining. We had to explain that, well, our mandate is Aurora. We're looking for funders in Aurora. We want to serve the community of Aurora, and so that's where we're going to focus our attention. And we've got 4,200 students here who we can serve with this program specifically. So they understood that, and they still allowed us to participate in those schools specifically. So, in the future, what does it look like? I think that it means a lot more opportunities for me to speak with the director and superintendents and say, look, this was successful. Here's what we found. Here's what we saw. Here's what we learned. How do you feel about making a longer commitment? And that's what we'll be looking for at that point.
Councillor Gilliland?
That's good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wow, I clearly have a bias to the center, and I'll express that right off the bat because I love everything that the center does. And I'll take that hat off and put on my councillor hat that's responsible for the taxpayers. And I'll say not much changes when I switch hats, but I'm curious to know if we didn't fund the $50,000 or $100,000, two things: what would happen with the Kaleidoscope program, and additionally, what would happen with the donor funding?
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I would say that the Aurora Cultural Center has a unique opportunity right now with this donor. We've never had a donor like this, and I think we are well aware that there's risk in not providing this program, and risk in not being able to accept this money because we don't have matching funds. Because there's a concern about what that would say to others who might give us money in being able to move things forward. The board certainly has had that conversation about what it felt it could take on. I think stewarding the major gift of the $75,000, and continuing to work with that donor to have an ongoing commitment to raise the additional $25,000 for the program were all areas where the board felt very, very comfortable. The other sustainable funding around the $50,000, if it was not received, the board would have to make a decision about whether the Kaleidoscope program could move forward. Reputationally, we have taken quite a bit of risk to this point. We've spoken to artists, we've spoken to the school districts, we've spoken to corporate and submitted applications and grants on the basis that that this program will be moving forward. And if it doesn't, then we are part of that loss in reputation and being able to deliver something. So I'm not sure if that answers your question as fully as you want.
Councillor Gallo?
I think it did. What would be, if we chose to fund or not fund, what would be the kind of drop dead date? When do you need to know by in order to, if we chose to fund, in order to proceed with the program?
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I probably needed to know last month, but certainly we have in order for the board to move forward, I think we need a pretty quick, speedy response. I would say that there's an expectation of being able to know that we can commit to the artists. The artists are waiting. The artists are, the timing is really a challenge because they have to write their grants for all of their activities for the upcoming year. And they always look at the 1920 year. That's actually how, we produce that way and present that way, and so do other artists. So they're writing all of their grants right now for touring, for coming up and participating, and we would be asking them for a significant residency period. So they've set aside that time right now for us, and they're waiting for an answer. So in fact, most of them said March 1st, which is in a couple of days. So we're trying to push it as much as we can to actually retain the artists that we have. But I think for the board's comfort and for the amount of work that needs to happen to launch this program and to get all of the ducks in a row to ensure that the school boards have time to plan with their principals in the 10 public schools, the 4 Catholic schools, and the 2 French schools, all of that work has to happen now. And in fact, they've asked us for a meeting in March to look at programming. So again, maybe I'm being vague, but it's really imperative that we find out very quickly if this is a go or no go from council.
Councillor Gallo?
Not sure if I can ask anything from staff now, just to get an idea of that date of when we would expect to finalize the operating budget. I can ask it after if it's.
Well, yeah, Mr. Seo. End of March.
End of March,
The
okay.
last March meeting that we have for our operating budget. And I'll just remind you, and I know that I kind of think I know where you're kind of going with this, and just remind you, Councillor Gallo, even if a decision was made tonight, and let's say it was a close decision or it was unanimous or whatever, it could be changed. And so I think it would set false expectations.
I'm not expecting
no,
to do
and just in
anything
case
tonight.
that was the direction.
Not at all. I'm just
Thank you.
getting a sense of timing in terms of the urgency of it. Also, in terms of, I just want some clarity around the years and am I to believe that the program would start September 2019 to June 2020, and that's the full year of the program. Obviously, our budget years are on a calendar year, and that's where the breakup is, or maybe
Suzanne?
not.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the school year, September through to June, is where the program implementation is. There are a number of upfront costs in order to just bring the program up to speed and work that we need to do in order to get the very first year operating. There are direct costs that happen in September through to December and January through to June, which are artist related. There are artist fees, accommodation, transportation, all of the workshop pieces that I talked about, developing all of the curriculum around the the study guides, all of that we're planning to do in year one. So that's why there's still that upfront cost. It's staff time and it's consultation and it's artists relationship pieces that are happening in year one, plus those direct artist costs for 2019. In 2020, we are looking at a winter, spring, and a fall implementation for the full $150,000. So if the program was to end in June, it's not going to cost us as much, obviously, because we won't have those direct artist costs in the fall. Fall, we're planning to put on 2 performances, and in the winter, spring would be 3.
Councillor Gallo?
Okay, thank you. Just in terms of the school board and comments around who funds them, and we already fund, there's only really one taxpayer. To me, they are, sorry, it's not a question, it's kind of a summary of my thoughts. It's an issue of, these are Aurora kids, and we're using taxpayers to fund a program for Aurora kids, regardless of the school board. To me, that's just a venue. In terms of what we're doing, I'm so happy I didn't hear the word math or English in any of the commentary, because, and this is just my personal opinion, the humanities have been removed from our system and our kids, and there's so much value in that, and exposing children to these types of things, to music and art and performing arts. So I am in full support of this and look forward to moving it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Susanna, for coming tonight. It was a great presentation, and I really, I'm a huge fan of the Cultural Center and all the great work you guys have done and over the years, and it just keeps getting better and better. Just to have a couple of quick questions. So, okay, you may have answered this, but I'll ask it a little differently. So what happens if it's a no? What happens if this year this council decides we just can't fund it this year because of the direction of pause for all groups this year? So if it's a no, does that mean the donor's backing out?
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the donor will give us the funds if we have matching dollars. And what I would say is that the board is comfortable in raising the 100,000, and that the other 50 is a stretch.
Okay, so basically, just so I'm clear, then, if this says a no, you will find a way to make it happen.
Suzanne? That's not what I took.
Like, sorry, just to you, Mr. Mayor, I heard it's a match. So whether it's from the town or from sponsorships or from reserves, you guys can somehow make it happen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is new dollars. It's not it would not be possible for it to be a match from contingency or reserves.
Okay.
It has to be new dollars,
Okay.
and the
So
board
all
is
funds.
very clear that they felt that would be too high a fundraising goal for the organization in the current size that it is.
Okay, perfect,
Councilor
thank you.
Humphreys?
I had to ask that clearly so I understood the impact of the decision here, right? So when we come to that point, because I love the program. You're outreaching to the schools. You're going there. This was talked about, I think, 5 years ago. And there was a little attempt to try to get there, but you're actually going and putting yourselves in the school, which will only help the artistic, the creative opportunities that we can give these children, and the parents' exposure to this, and just know that we have this amazing center in our own town that they can visit. If they'll learn a lot. I mean, I'm not questioning the quality of what will be delivered at all. I think it's going to be incredible, and I can see a curriculum built around it. One of the things that'd be really cool to, if there was a way that the donor would agree to 1 year, and then, the trial, and then, we can help but say yes. I'm just talking worst case scenario, should something, happen, because it's a great program. And just one other question. You mentioned you were going to put on, if, everything goes forward, there's going to be 3 performances in the spring. And sorry, can you repeat that again? And by the way, is it per school?
Through you,
Suzanne?
Mr. Mayor. So every school would get one performance.
Okay.
They each have a gymnatorium big enough to host the JK to grade 4
Okay.
catchment of
Yeah.
their school. The principal would make a decision on which production they would get. We want to curate a season of 5 different performances: music, theater, dance, puppetry, multidisciplinary. The principal would choose that would come into their school for the year. And so every school would choose what they want. So the artist residency would be 4 days in the community where they would go to a school each day. They do a performance and then a workshop in the afternoon. And then they go to another school, and all of that, the logistics of that has to be worked out, and who would like what. But we're picking a diversity of themes, a diversity of genres, disciplines, so that there can be enough choice, so that it meets the values of the district in some cases, and also the values of the school, or what they feel might be the best fit for not only that particular catchment, but maybe for the breakout session as well in terms of their resources. So they'll have a lot of information about what would happen in their schools before they have to make that decision.
Perfect. Oh, great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the answers and all the information tonight, and we'll look forward to see what happens moving forward. But thank you again to you and the board, doing a great job, and keep it up because we just love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphries. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a really hard ask, but I think it's worth taking a chance. And I'm going to tell you, well, one of the reasons. I was at the Cultural Center, and a little boy came in holding his dad's hand. And it was very clear that the child was bringing the father in. So I spoke, I think it was with you later on, and I found out that the school across the street, the Montessori school, comes and visits the Cultural Center. So just imagine if we bring this to the schools, and we have all these kids bringing their parents into the Cultural Center. And this father had no idea about the Cultural Center. So I think it would be great for the children, for the community, and I think it could be very, very good for the Cultural Center. And it'd be also great for Aurora's reputation. I definitely think it's worth taking a chance on this.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson, before I go to you for the second time, I just had a couple of questions. Suzanne, it was mentioned that this program used to exist inside the Cultural Center to a certain extent. Is that correct?
We have a family program right now called Kaleidoscope. So I hope it's not getting confusing, but right now we present 3 theatrical events a year. We have one during March break, we have one in the summer, and then we have one around the holiday time. And they're typically theatrical, Peter Pan or, Beauty and the Beast, that kind of thing. So it's a theatrical presentation for families. So that exists. And then we do an art and craft activity after, which was recently added as well. So this is taking that idea of presenting those kinds of presentations and bringing them to the schools. The practitioners that we're looking at are a little bit different, because the practitioners that we have coming into a space that is meant to be a performance space, they have certain technical support that they get from us, whereas when they go into the schools, these producers have produced in schools all across North America, and so they know that they go in, it's very quick, they don't have lighting, they bring their own props, they bring everything, they create the world for the kids within their gymnatorium, and it's just a different delivery and producing model. So we know, and a lot of these performances do have a public presentation as well that they can do, so we would like to actually tie the two together to say, well, we're doing 5, we've curated a season of 5, some of them will be coming from hopefully across the country, And so why wouldn't we want the rest of the population to see it, to bring their families? Maybe the students saw it in their school and they bring their family to the cultural center. While I said that they could go to any arts activity after, of course we're hoping they'll come to the cultural center. And in fact, the school board understands that we want to make sure that our name is known as part of this program.
Thank you. And you also mentioned that the school boards currently do bring in some artists on occasion or to talk about bullying and stuff like that. And so I'm just wondering, how, in your conversations with them, will they be stopping that if this program does start up?
I did not ask them that, whether they were going to halt any programs for this. I suspect that since this is coming to them at no cost, that's not likely. If they have specific issues in their school where there's a social action theater or social piece that they absolutely feel they need, I wouldn't want to say that they couldn't do that, because certainly that might be something that's really impactful for their school. And it might be something that the K to 8 see, or that only the senior students see, because it's a specific issue for that group. We're focusing on one catchment and of the JK to grade 4, and we're delivering arts programming, which is different from the social piece that they might still need.
Thanks, Suzanne. So, I mean, I kind of agree with some of the comments that I heard, that I would like to see the school board actually step up on this. And Councillor Gallo, you made a good point. It is all taxpayer dollars regardless of where it comes from. But where I see the difference is when it's the school board, it's a small percentage of what our taxpayers are paying out of that dollar, for every dollar. Whereas when it's coming from us, the residents of this town are paying the full pot, 100%. So that's where I see the difference in that. But thank you for coming and speaking to us this evening. I'll go to Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Suzanne, if I can just get a little more clarity, just to follow up on the responses you gave to Councillor Gallo and Councillor Humphreys. When I look at the report we have in front of us this evening in your executive summary on page 2 and 3, it implies that should the will of council be that we don't fund the program, the board will look to internal sources to fund these initiatives in 2019. To accomplish this, the board will draw from the contingency reserve fund that are set aside to meet obligations should the relationship with the town cease to exist. This is a one-time draw to give the town of Aurora the ability to meet its budget objectives in 2019. However, this weighty structural obligation will need to be addressed in the 2020 budget cycle to ensure sustainability for the organization. When I read that, the impression I get is that the board has already decided they're moving forward with the Kaleidoscope program. The question is whether or not the town is partnering them for the 2019-2020 season. But that's not the impression I got from you when you responded to Councillor Gallo or Councillor Humphreys. So perhaps can you clarify, is this not accurate anymore, this report we have in front of us?
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've moved back to the slide which is around the budget. I'm sorry if there's miscommunication in the executive summary or how it was written or read. The intention is, in fact, that the first portion there, the request from the town of Aurora for the $100,000 as a pilot grant to match the donor and Kaleidoscope, is a separate piece from the base budget requirements for sustainability of the organization. What the board has agreed to do is fund the increase to the base budget through contingencies should that be necessary, because that piece is not funded by council. Because if there is no increase coming for the base budget, that piece, the $30,400, has been discussed, and in fact there's a motion by the board to fund that if the town does not step up and be a part of that. But it's not about Kaleidoscope, because again, the matching funding can't come from internal sources. So.
I'm glad you've clarified
Yeah.
that. I appreciate that. So then, just to follow up on that, the increase in the base budget was $30,400. Again, in that executive summary, you talk about the implementation of a compensation program for staff tied to not-for-profit market pay bands, as well as the fact that it's important for the cultural center to treat staff fairly. And so, is this $30,400 all of which to increase the base salaries of those employees you've identified as being below market rate?
There's two factors in there. One is certainly around the compensation bands and the salary bands. And there's also the issue of workload in terms of how much work staff are doing and the reorganization around that. So,
Councillor Thompson?
Can you give me a sense? Is it 50-50?
Suzanne?
well, I can get back to you on
Sure.
that if you
Thank
like.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions, so thank you very much, Suzanne. Oh, Councillor Gallo.
Just really quickly, in terms of timing, I know we said the end of March. If we're to decide by the end of March, does that impact the delivery of the program?
Suzanne?
I guess through you, Mr. Mayor, it would be good to get an indication from council tonight as to appetite around this. I absolutely heard the CEO talk about the timing and that it's not finalized until council has ratified the operating budget. So we would probably continue, if there was an appetite around the table and in the conversation, that we would probably continue to do some work on this and try to continue to form relationships. We wouldn't sign any contractual obligations until we knew whether the budget was passed at the end of March.
So, Mr. Mayor, as we've done already, we've advanced other projects, both capital and operating. When would be the first opportunity that council would have at a council meeting to potentially approve this?
Mr. CEO? Put you on the spot.
Well, it would be within our regular council cycle, so, I mean, technically tomorrow night is a council meeting, and then there's nothing until the March meeting, because March, there's only one set of meetings.
So tomorrow is the only opportunity at a council meeting?
Other than the March one.
Other than
That'd be correct.
the March one?
Without calling for a special meeting.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Well, council, I will ask for a motion. We'll do this first and then take a break. We can get a motion to receive 1, 2, and 3. Moved by Councillor Gilliland, second by Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions to this? No? Seeing none. Councillor Gartner.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, but I would like to know, I mean, we've been asked if there is an appetite around the table for this. Would it be inappropriate for us as a council to say what we think about this?
I mean, if any councillor wants to add to their comments, I think they're more than welcome to if they want to hit the button. As I stated, I think that you'd be setting false expectations. I think just due to the fact that once we see the full picture, you might decide that you might change. Some councillor might change their mind and decide to put funding towards something else instead of what's being presented. So I wouldn't want to set those false expectations. But I mean, if you're more than welcome to state, and I believe I got a sense of where everyone's kind of going. But if anyone wants to put forward a more concrete statement, then by all means.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we're now in the report section, I thought we could make it a little more official.
Sure. Did you want to speak to it?
Well, I actually have spoken to it, and I think it's an opportunity. You don't often get an opportunity like this where a donor is willing to come forward with such a large amount of money to support actually one of our cultural partners. And I think we need to take a chance on this because it is very special and would be very special for the children in our community and hopefully very special for the Cultural Center.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Humphreys.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate where you're going, through you, Mr. Mayor, that I'm positive, but I'd like to hear all the different, what if the next group comes and gives us a great opportunity and they need 50,000. I'm just afraid to do that tonight. Let's hear everyone and then let's do it, because I hear you. I love it. I'm very excited about it. I just don't want to be unfair to everybody else. That's just how I feel for tonight. And I think if there's an urgency, we can bring it up at the end of this meeting or a council meeting to say, look, we're worried about losing this opportunity. Let's do that separately. That's just how I feel tonight, because I'm anxious to hear everybody else's.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To me, there's two things. First off, as I just mentioned, we've already pre-approved capital and operating items that staff have brought to our attention. And secondly, when I look at these, I don't distinguish between projects that staff bring to us and ask for funding different than cultural partners bringing programs to us and asking for funding. I don't distinguish the two. They all provide a service to the town of Aurora, to me, equally. And so I'm happy to wait and listen to everyone else. I think that's completely appropriate. Even though we've made exceptions for other projects that were justifiably so, there was some urgency to them, and we made that decision and we moved forward. That was my only intent in this, is if there is some urgency that we could make a decision. Certainly not tonight. I would never expect to do it tonight, but just to reiterate, for me, every project that comes before us and needs to spend tax dollars is equal, no matter who's delivering it.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I acknowledge and applaud Councillor Gardner's suggestion about bringing this forward at this point, but given that we haven't completed our decision-making on all the other town operating items, it seems premature for us to approve or not approve anything at this point. So I think I'm getting the sense around the table that we are willing to hold off a bit, even though there might be a sense of urgency. I think we still have to look after our town matters, and so I don't think I can make a decision. And if we had to make a decision on the cultural center or any other cultural partner at this time, I don't think I'm prepared to make that choice right now.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. And I mean, as far as from where I stand, I think I spoke and said everything I needed to say at the beginning of this meeting. I'm not open to allowing for or accepting any new funding requests at this during this budget cycle, especially if it's going to come from the tax levy. If it's coming from the tax levy, it's a no for me. As much as I like the program, as much as I would like to see it occur, unfortunately, if it's coming from the tax levy, no, not this year. We need to reevaluate. We need to look how we move forward, providing this funding to make sure that every dollar that we issue out to any organization, and including our staff, meets every standard at the highest level, and make sure that there's value in every dollar that's spent. So if it's, as I said, if it's coming from the levy, it's a no for me. If we can become creative somehow and find this dollar amount somewhere else, we can have that discussion. But at this time, I'm not seeing where that 100,000 is going to come from. So if you want to know my answer, it's no right now. So we got the motion on the floor, so I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of receiving? Opposed? That carries. Next we have, actually we have a 10-minute break. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we have quorum. Yeah, council. I know, but someone's going to be doing a presentation. I'd prefer that all of council was sitting down at the table. You're welcome, councillor. Can I just take this for a sec? All right. Oop. Okay. All right. Council, we're going to start back up with number 3, the Aurora Public Library Board 2019 Operating Grant. Presentation by Tom Connor, Chair of the Board of Directors, and Bruce Gorman, Chief Executive Officer. Tom, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilors, good evening. As the Mayor said, I'm Tom Connor. I'm the Chair of the Library Board. I'm pleased to be here tonight along with my one of my fellow board members, Marie Rankle, and some of our staff are also here. I'm here to introduce our 2019 operating budget. Aurora Public Library had an excellent year in 2018 and looks forward to an exciting 2019. With a major renovation in progress, a new one-desk service model, along with new programs and services that are second to none, 2019 has already been an exciting year for us. I am now pleased to hand over the podium to our CEO, Bruce Gorman, to take you through the presentation.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Bruce.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, happy to be here. Seems like I was just here a week or so ago, or maybe a bit more. Always happy to be here. And I'm happy to talk about libraries too. So I've been in this business for some time, and you know the value proposition that libraries bring to communities is really, it's hard to equal what we do for communities. And the fact that we change so rapidly and so agilely to grow with communities is something that a lot of people don't expect. So I'm going to take you through some metrics, some of our performance indicators, give you a little bit of our 2018 highlights, look forward to 2019, then talk a little bit about our budget. All right. So our board, we have a brand new board there. Adam Mobbs, Harold Kim, Deputy Mayor, Sandra Humphreys, who I don't see here right now, but I'm sure she'll be here soon. John Clement, Marie Rankle, and Ken Turf. So it's great to have a new board. We're learning together. We're going to be going off and doing some training, so we appreciate the important board decisions that they need to make and some of the parameters that boards need to understand. So when I look at metrics, hello, Sandra. When I look at metrics, I like to look at metrics year over year, but I also like to look at other entities too. I think that's impressive to look at other places, other library systems in our case. So we submit statistics to the Ontario government, and we are categorized in libraries based on our population. So as you see, we are in a population base of 50 to 100,000. In that population base, you can see, if you care to, read through the libraries that are in that. They're not geographically close to us, they're just Ontario, between 50 and 100,000. So CIRC per cap, as an example, we are the #1 library in that group. Pickering is the one that gets me because they're close to 100,000. They'll probably be off into the next category soon, but it's a larger, I think it's a city, larger than us, approaching 100,000, yet we still beat them in CIRC per cap. Our annual circulation too, so there's two things going on here. Again, we're second amongst this group that I just mentioned, second to Pickering. As well, you can see our circulation, annual circulation continues to grow. A lot of people talking about the print circulation going down in Library World, which it is. We have reversed that trend. Our print circulation goes up. And of course, digital circulation is the new reality of the world, and that keeps our circulation continuing to rise. We're excited about that in 2018. As I just said, ebooks, audiobooks, important part of the new dynamic of collections. That is an important growth part of our overall collection, up 24% in 2018. It's really the new reality. As much as you love warming up to a book on a fireplace, having a bunch of them on the plane ride on an iPad is what a lot of people are doing these days. So this is a number that I really like. So this year we had almost 260,000 people in the building. Now we have the entire building, not library proper. So there's a little bump because of that, 14% overall. But that's a big number, 260,000 people walking into our library system, taking advantage of all the things that we offer on a daily basis. And I see it every day. Most of the councilors and the mayor and the CAO have heard me talk about how busy we are. But that's a great thing. I don't think I could normalize for population. I couldn't beat that in a larger city like where I'm from, Halifax, as an example. And in a few slides down the road here, you're going to see me talk about more open hours. So I expect to hit close to 300,000 people in 2019. So that's even better. The more people we can get into this library system and take advantage of what we have to offer, the better. Up 15%, social media. We launched, what did we launch? What was it? Instagram. We launched Instagram this year, so that was the bump, particular bump. But that number keeps on rising too, and we know social media and our presence out in the internet is important, and we keep on playing that card, and it's proven to play out for us very well, a lot of followers for us. So information transactions, less where is this or where is that, directional. So people come into our library and are looking for information on a variety of things. It's interesting, in a more complex world than ever, where you have to really vet information like you have never vetted information before, librarians are more important than ever as library professionals, and they can help you vet information. So part of that reason is coming to us is that people want to get authentic, true information, and that's only going to continue in a world where you really have to be mindful of the information that you receive. So, this is only a little increase, only 4%, but it was more letting everybody know here that 100,000 people attached to our network in the course of a year. That's a lot of people that are in our domain attaching to our network. So this year I'm going to expand our wireless directional antennas a little bit to give a little bit of wider coverage, so people in the surrounding areas, not just in the library proper, will be able to take advantage of complementary wireless. And the thing about our wireless that a lot of the coffee shops may not have is the huge bandwidth that we have. So they get a pleasant online experience because we have a lot of bandwidth. Everybody has their iPads and their iPods and doing their own thing now, but a lot of people still need computers, and we are the place to go. So over 32,000 people have come in and taken advantage of the public use computers that we have. And when our doors open on most days at 9:30, people are running in to get their computer. But that's an important service for us to have. It's okay to have your iPad and your devices, but not everybody does, and this is the place where you can go and engage with whatever it is that you want to engage with on the internet or any place else. So that's an important number, 32,000. Online courses. So I'm born of online courses. My master's degree was partially done online, but it's a new world now where you can go and get degrees and learn whatever it is that you want to learn without necessarily having to sit in a classroom. And the newer world now are tools that we're offering, and I'll talk about it in a few minutes, called lynda.com. It's a collection of 6,000 courses that you can come and learn about business, technology, a whole variety of topics, and there's no cost to that. You can pay for that if you want, $30 a month, or you can come to the library or do it from your home and take advantage of all kinds of great courses. So that's a new growth curve for us, up 88%, and we're excited about lynda.com, which I'll talk about in a few more minutes. We're a big club, for sure. I'm not sure how many other clubs in Aurora have 26,000 plus members. That's a good percentage, 44% of the population of Aurora have library cards, and we're happy that they do, and we're happy that they come and join us. So More specifically, event-wise, during March break last year, we had almost 6,000 people come in and take advantage of the great programming we did, mostly for the younger kids, which is good for the parents. And as well, even on one particular event, 420 people were here for a TVO Kids event, which you are looking on your screen right now. So engaging, exciting event, in this case, with 400 plus people coming in and visiting us. Overall, our program attendance up 14%. So one of the great things, one of the things I love about libraries is that we're free. We are free. 961 free programs that we offered in 2018 with over 22,000 people taking advantage of those programs. These are meaningful programs, adult programs, teen programs, youth programs. Some of them for the younger kids, we follow this STEM methodology of science, technology, engineering, and math, because that's the jobs that the skills we'll need in the future. We care about our community. We care about newcomers. I come from a city where newcomers land in Halifax. This is a city where newcomers land as well. 90 newcomer programs. Newcomers come to libraries. It's a very safe, welcoming place. It's often the first place that they land. So we're happy that they come to us. We had over 910 participants in 90 programs, which is up 25% over the previous year. So technology is a big deal in our society in many ways. It's really the way that we are all already living and breathing, and the way that we are going to be doing more of every day. So we stay ahead of that curve. We have new technologies, in particular for 2018, the Oculus Go virtual reality, which play just for a second, the video in the middle there.
Oh, come on board! This is so wild. Can you see it on the screen?
Okay.
Yes. Oh my
Okay, that's good.
This.
So where can you go anywhere without paying for it and have a virtual reality experience? Nowhere. You can come to the library. So we have this Oculus Go virtual reality headset, and we're getting the updated version in 2019 with more features. But it's a place where you can go to engage in new technologies that if you don't have any money, you can still do it, right? It's interesting. This is very popular amongst older adults now because it staves off Alzheimer's and different diseases. It keeps mental faculties in older adults more keen. So there's some science behind that too. And the Ozbots are these little robots that move around. I saw them in action there. They're very cool. They're engaging for the young kids. It's part of the young kids' new modern technology-driven education. Oops. Okay, there we go. Oops. So programs are important to us too, technology programs in support of new technologies. So for the young kids, we have technology story times, video game meetups. So for the gamers, why don't you come to the library instead? And I often use this analogy of gamers. Sometimes they can spend their time down in their basements gaming, but come to a library and socialize with people and game in a different way. Some programming with Raspberry Pi. That would be a representation of my parents now who are learning the iPad because Dad won't pay $2 when they ask him to pay for his statement from TD Bank or any bank. Didn't mean to say TD Bank. So the older generation, they need to know about technology. They're forced to it, just like the younger generation is. You can go pay if you want. You can pay lots of money, or you can come to your library, and we'll teach you high-quality programs related to technology for nothing. So our collections used to be what we had on our stacks, and we have a fabulous collection on our staff. On our stacks, we have about 125 items that are well managed by one of my great managers. And I mentioned earlier in this presentation that we continue to have our print collection circulation go up, which is not the trend at all. But it's a different world now, for sure. So in fact, 125 items in the stacks, but I present over 1 million items for you to come and either come and take out in our library or in your bedroom if you'd like. New titles, new services like Hoopla, Cloud Library, Overdrive, ebooks, audiobooks. FreeGal is music, so you don't need to go to one of those paid music services to download a song. You can go to FreeGal and do it. Tumble books for the little kids, or Be Digital, or magazines. So, you know, the analogy of you're running off to the airport to go to Europe, and you forgot that you wanted to get a Rick Steves book, and you have your device and your library card, which 26,000 people in Aurora have. Go on there, pull down the latest city that you're going to from Rick Steves, and have a better experience. That's 15 minutes? Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Don't worry.
So let me speed up a bit. I talked about lynda.com. The value proposition here is important. So for free, this is $30.99 a month if you want to go buy the service, or you can get it in your basement, in your bedroom, or in the library for free. Over 6,000 courses in business technology, creative skills, and these are courses that can help you in your career. So someone could decide to have a career change, or that could be forced on someone, and they could sit down in their home and log into Aurora Public Library and decide that they may want to be a digital marketer, for instance, or a front-end web developer, and we can help you do that for absolutely nothing, for free. So I sneaked a cookbook, which you all have there now. So would you have thought that you'd have your local library producing a cookbook? So this is the Culinary Traveler. It's a group of people who like to cook and who have varying backgrounds, and we got together and we created what Risha tells me are very easy to make recipes. So they say, but the recipes from around the world, and this cookbook is something we put out. So you wouldn't think of this as the place where you'd find a cookbook, but it is, and it's also a great group of people that come with diverse backgrounds, and you learn about different types of food. A couple of them I'm gonna try if I'm really brave one night. We are diverse. We care about everybody. Everybody is welcome in the library. We participate in the Pride Parade for sure. I think we were one of the first kind of entities that decided we wanted to participate. I'll be there front and center when it's coming up. Drag Queen Story Time, another great example of exposing communities to the depth and variety of people and expertise and points of view that we have. We're a safe place to go, and we were very excited to have this program, and it was a highly successful one. Smiles everywhere. So these are the kind of things that get me excited and wound up. We're a diverse community, lots of culture here, lots of points of view. We're the place where you can come together and have good discussions and share your ideas. In this case, it was in the form of music, which is great, but on another occasion, it's in another format. So it's a place where anybody can come and share their ideas and have great discussion. We care about the young ones. I'm still trying to figure out the teens in Aurora. Take me a little while longer, I think, but we're a place where teens want to come. I'll be creating some cooler areas for them with our renovation that I'll talk about in a minute. This is an example, a youth coffee house where they come and get together in a safe environment where their parents are happy to have them. And we have a lot of teens that come and study, or we engage with them in unique and different ways, and we're excited about that as well. Art is important for sure. We have 8 art exhibits in 2018. I think art, culture, libraries are an excellent marriage, and one of the things that we do is give many eyes. I told you 260,000 people walk through our library, and they get to look at this fabulous art in the course of their visit, so that's exciting for us too. Okay, in 2019, I don't know, some of you have been into our library as we change it up. This is definitely a game changer for us. It's $2.2 million renovation that is coming closer towards the end of March, probably. All the furniture, or half of it at least, was delivered today. We create these big, open, expansive living room type spaces that people are asking for. We've created 2 new meeting spaces that are flexible, that we can do anything we want in. We've added some automation to improve our efficiency through AMH, automated materials handling, and refresh the look of the building. So it's going to be a different building. We'll be able to program in a different way. I'm more excited about this than a lot of things right now. So come over and visit us. Some of you have. I know the mayor was over and CEO was over, and our board members too, but feel free to come over and see this new space. This is the creative studio, things like the maker space, which people are hearing about more often. That can live in this space, but it can be any kind of creative event. The notion of maker space, where you get like-minded people together with different skills to build something, is important, and it also is a place for people to gather and share their expertise. I had it was a couple last year, people who had different skill sets were able together to build a ham radio, and that actually worked, but not one of them could have done it on their own. So this notion of coming together in these creative spaces is cool. Makerspace is going to be passé soon. It's going to be creation space, and that gets into a higher plateau of solving more of the world's problems like hunger and et cetera. So this notion of maker and working together with people is an important notion that's going to play out in the future. One Desk, the philosophy of One Desk is that you come to your public library and you go to one spot and all your questions are answered, whether you're checking out a book or whether you have an information question, as you saw previously, or whether you're looking to find the availability of our meeting rooms. So we've just flipped to this One Desk model, more efficient for us and a better user experience for sure. So this is the trend in public libraries, and we're happy to participate in that trend. So, new hours. I'm going to bring not 260,000 in 2019, but more, hopefully 300,000. So we've decided, or if this budget is approved, we'd like to open Monday mornings. Typically, Monday mornings are often in cities or towns. Mondays were closed in multi-branch systems, typically for financial reasons. We have the ability with our existing staffing levels to open at 9:30 on Mondays. I was there today at 1 o'clock when we do open, and the floodgates of people came in at 1, but there's a demand. We did some surveys, and there's a demand for people to want our services on a Monday. And frankly, in a town of this size, it's really good stewardship for us to be open. And this is a libraryism everywhere, wherever I've been. The 5 to 6 hour on Friday when people are trying to get home from work and come and grab a movie, or because we're the only Blockbuster in town now, or a latest book, then that hour is an important hour. So if this is approved, then we would open that additional hour as well. So we're happy to add to the hours that we already are open, and we heard loud and clear from the public that these hours were good hours. So in 2019, some of the newer stuff that I'm just getting to know, Glowforge laser cutter, which is the bottom one, and the Oculus Rift is the next version, which does more kind of virtual reality stuff than the video you saw, and then digital embroidery. So we have experts, professionals here who bring these new technologies to life, and the new technologies of 2019 will be commonplace probably in 2020. So it's a place you can come, touch new technology, and then begin to use it and live and breathe it if that's something that you want to do, which you can't do anywhere else, in particular for free. So I've talked to council a few weeks ago about our growth accommodation study. It's really about the architecture and the structure of the building. So you're already aware that that's underway, but that will hopefully show some great potential for the town in the future. We care about culture. I mentioned that a few times here. So in 2019, we're going to expand our cultural presence and engage with different cultures. Arab Voices there you can see, and then Chinese heritage. So that's exciting for us. We are a diverse community, and we should reflect that, and we do. And this is a perfect example of what we'll be doing in 2019. As well as newcomers, I said newcomers love their libraries, so we'll expand our program offerings for newcomers in 2019 as well. If we can find a good spot, we'll have an additional book drop. We have one at the Go station, so we'll peruse the town and see if there's another spot that could be more convenient for someone to drop off their materials. Our one at the Go station is not surprisingly very well used, so we'll look at another location that makes some good sense. So for the first time ever, we are in the community services guide that is produced by the town, which is great. We have our own publication, but all I see this, I think this is great for the town, so they get a wider perspective of activities that are going on in their community, and we get additional eyes that may not necessarily have been looking at our publication. So we're happy we have a 2-page, we were in it before as an ad, but now we have a 2-page spread, and I believe the next edition, Risha tells me it's going to be a 4-page spread. So we think this is great. It's part of my desire and our desire to be partners along the journey with the town and do everything that we can to work together to make this town great. So let's quickly take a look at the budget. So our approved budget in 2018, you see up there 3.1, reducing a little bit to 2019, and that is because we had 18 new hires in 2018, which is, part of the baby boomer experience, which is occurring, and just people changing jobs. So that allows me to bring step one back into play for those new hires. So I have some cost savings there. Other expenditures, that was the 66,000 increase. That was the lynda.com that I talked about, and another online digital product, ebook product, and some technology products that we brought online. That equates to 66.3. Our contribution remains the same to capital of 130, and we did increase our revenues from the Magna and Lebovic room, pegging that at 10,770. So I will say a lot of discussion this evening about staying the budget. I've not been shy in telling all of council that the library wants to work side by side. We have a vested interest in Library Square, as does the town, as does the mayor's vision of revitalizing the downtown area. It's very important to us. We want to work side by side with the town. You can see my ask is a zero ask, and I'm happy to do that. And I look forward to 2019 being a very exciting year for both the library and for both the town and the Library Square project, which is particularly exciting to the library. And I will stop talking and answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Bruce. Just first off, I'm a little disappointed that I wasn't asked for my mother's recipe on baklava triangles, but
if I had known, if I had been here, I would have said, where's Mom's recipe? Right. We'll get you for next year.
Thank you. But on a serious note, and I didn't bring this up with some of the previous presentations, but the word free somewhat bothers me a little bit, and I've mentioned it last term. I'm just wondering, moving forward, if we can find a different term, because at the end of the day, programming and everything is really not free because it's actually subsidized by the taxpayers, and so that word bothers me. And if we can just find another word.
I'll find another word.
Thank you.
It's the word I've used, and it's I get what you're saying. I mean, nothing is free.
Exactly.
They'll pay it in their tax dollars, and I get that. It's just the word I've used for so many years. I'll come up with another word.
And I appreciate that. Yeah. So it's just moving forward, I think if we can come up with a different word instead of saying free, because I just think it does a disservice to what was actually occurring there.
Yeah.
So
I'd
thank
like
you for that.
to, for this year or later this year, I'll do a value calculator to give the public idea of actually the tax dollars that they spend on the library from the tax base, right?
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Humphreys.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for presentation tonight, Bruce. It was great job, and the library is so vibrant. We have honestly just one of the most amazing libraries in the world, let alone Cantor. I just wanted to mention that. I was going to say this, but just some great work done through you, Mr. Mayor, by yourself and staff, that you're able to deliver on some of the initiatives without increasing your baseline budget. I know it's not an easy ask. We went through it during the meeting last week and made sure that, that we were going to be okay and not have a lot of suffering because of this. And you're able to work around what you need to do in order to get things done the way we're hopefully to plan. So I want to thank you very much, Bruce. Just one thing I'd love to comment is that really in particular, I love the new Comer program. It's just great to see the increase of use in there. It's just wonderful that people coming into town, new immigrants, new people, can come to the library and have a safe place.
Yep, first place they go, a lot of times.
Safe place they go. And it's amazing just how relevant the library is now, even more than ever. And if you haven't been to the library since the renovations, which haven't been completed yet, it's incredible. It just looks, I can't believe it's the same library.
It's a
just
game
lovely.
changer.
It is a game changer. It really is. So thank you very much to you and all the staff and the board that's here tonight. I really appreciate you guys coming here and staying late. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Bruce, for your presentation. As a board member of the library, I'm familiar with most of the operating budget, but for the sake of those in the audience and my colleagues, can you clarify how you're able to maintain the service levels and even increase by the increased hours that you've mentioned, given that COLA's still increasing, and yet we've given you no increase in the overall budget. Can you expand on that, please?
So, through related to your Mr. Mayor, I like to call you your worship. But is that okay?
Call me Tom.
Your worship, your worship, through you to the councillor. The open hours, the additional open hours, is just rearranging or rescheduling staff members that are already in the building anyway, so there's no cost to that. I will be doing some gapping in 2019, already some gapping. There'll be some positions that have been modified to, as well as a place that I often go and have been very successful here too, is technology. It keeps on, in fact, better deals, easier to buy what you need for less money. So our technology budget, I'll be able to support any COLA increase for the year, for sure. I have no concerns about, there'll be no service reductions at all for the 2019 year.
Councillor Kim?
Great, thank you. And in the similar vein, the contribution to capital was $130,000 last year and the same this year. Can you tell us what our total amount in the capital reserve is, and can you share with everyone what the intent or what the potential options could be for that
So I came,
reserve?
Your Worship, through you. So I came to this table a few weeks ago and talked about what we were doing with our capital budget in 2019. I'm not sure, Julie, you may have the balance in the capital budget? Yes. Yeah, this project, our renovation project, our capital reserve definitely took a hit. So we're rebuilding. There was some issues before I arrived that caused some cost increases. So we're re-energizing our capital, and I'll be looking in the future as to what I'd really like to do. Typically, I capital plan for 5 years, as we do here, and take a look at larger projects. And we also have, of course, the DC accounts too, which under certain circumstances are at our disposal. But I've laid out what we're doing for 2019 for the capital budget, and that's me being here, new. So some of it was just stuff that needed to be done, but more deliberate capital planning will be going ahead 2020 and forward.
Councillor Kim?
Great. And lastly, I think you're aware, I think Mayor Marcus probably disclosed to you that we're trying to get all our partners aligned with respect to the same standards, whether it be reporting standards, performance standards. In your 5 months here at the Aurora Public Library, are there any areas where you could highlight and say that, hey, here are some areas that needs improvement, or here are some areas that are, you know, pretty exemplary and are in line to, are you able to identify certain areas in the short months that you've been here?
So one of my mentors told me to watch and learn for 6 months or so. Organizationally, I'm watching and learning and getting a better sense of any soft areas where we need to work on. But it's going to take me a little bit more time. I like to be more deliberate before I start making certain positions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Bruce, for being here. Certainly, you know, you have some exciting things planned for 2019, and look forward to seeing them come to fruition. Just following up on Councillor Kim's discussion around standards, and it's been mentioned that we certainly are trying to bring everybody to the same levels. And I'm pretty sure it's been brought to your attention by Councillor Humphreys, but just to comment, one of the questions that's been brought up from time to time is the information available on the library's website with respect to reports, budgets, and so forth. Traditionally, if you go online, you can see the agendas and you can see the minutes, but the reports aren't necessarily there like you would find at the town of Aurora. And I can only speak for myself, but I do think that's one area to look at. I'd like to see the library make those available. I know certainly that if any resident were to ask, or if they were to come into the library, they're always accessible, but given the digital age, I certainly think that's one area to look at, is to have those reports as well as whatever verbal reports are put onto the website.
So I agree with you 100%. This is not something that I have to think about long. We're happy to have more verbal reports. Sometimes when I'm talking on a variety of topics, that's why I have verbal reports. But there'll be more verbose now and written, and we will put all that stuff on the internet on our website. I'm happy to be 100% transparent. It's what I'm used to being. So if that was a lack in the past, then it won't be now, and I've already kind of instituted that.
That's great. If I have a second request, is that you know, myself and Councillor Gallo and the mayor sit on the Financial Advisory Committee. One of the things that we instituted last year and continue on in this term is really a review of each department, and we do go by line. We have more in-depth discussions around the budget. The library's never participated in that in the past because last term we really just focused internally. But I'd like to invite you to come to a future FAC meeting so we can do a deeper dive, not just on the current state of the budget, but also future pressures, and have a little bit further conversation about it. Given that the library's municipal requisition is about 10% of the tax levy, I think it'd be an important thing for you to come and participate in that process.
Bruce?
I would love to be invited. We're transparent now. We have a finance subcommittee that does a line-by-line look and presents that to the board. But listen, I said this to you previously. We want to be as transparent as we can, and so please invite me, and I'd be happy to join you.
I'll leave that to you to talk to our CAO and arrange. Thank you.
Doug, put me on the, okay.
Thank you,
Put me on the
Councillor.
list, Doug.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you very much for coming here today. I love this presentation. I wanted to point out that I have noticed an increase in your Instagram presence, so I just kind of want to make a comment about that. I noticed, I was like, wow, this is really good. It's working. And I had no idea that you had made this investment, and so it's working because I notice it, and I feel it's really engaging. A question about the lynda.com. That's something that's new, that's launching for 2019?
It's launching in 2019.
And I could already access it now.
I believe is it launched? Yeah, it's launched now. So it's launched. Yeah, so you can access it now through our website, yes.
Excellent. And is this something that you would have to go to the library and access it on a computer at the facility? And like,
You
how
can
does that
access
work?
it in your bedroom if you'd like. It's like anything. So as long as you can get onto our website, go online, go to the Lynda area and pick any one of the 6,000 courses and learn about whatever it is that you'd like to learn about for nothing.
Wow.
For some nominal cost.
I know what lynda.com is, and I just think that's absolutely
Lynda.com is
amazing.
from LinkedIn too. It's from the parent LinkedIn at a nominal cost.
Amazing. All right.
Tax dollars, excellent use of tax dollars.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for presenting, and it's always great to hear all the wonderful things that the library does. I'm accustomed to and as I've mentioned, when we're doing the town's budget, to compare, as I mentioned to you today, while it's okay to compare budget to budget, I'm really big on comparing budget to actuals, and I understand that you wouldn't have 2018 actuals, but I would be interested to see, whenever you do have either projected to year-end actuals, to give me a sense. And the only reason I ask is I pulled up the last audited financial statements that I could find, and there's 2016 and 2017 listed on there, and there's some significant surpluses, and I'm sure there's explanations for that, and I'm happy to sit down with you offline and understand that. But to me, from a budgeting perspective, it's really important to see how we're tracking as opposed to what we budgeted for last year and comparing those two. So that's an area that I'd like to dig a little deeper in.
Yep.
Bruce?
So it's more the form for that. I wasn't aware so much that was this was the form, but whatever the correct form is, then I'm happy to talk about line items and surpluses and that with council or the CAO's office as well.
Councillor Gal? Thank you. Seeing no other questions, thank you, Bruce.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Councillor Gardner?
Well,
Sorry, Bruce.
sorry,
Got you
Bruce.
one more.
Bruce, it's all very exciting. Thank you very
Indeed
much.
it is.
Glad you've come to Aurora. I think it works out to about $50 per person. Did anybody figure? Does that sound right? How much for the? Is a little more than that. How much each person in town subsidizes the library?
It's a lot. There's a lot that goes on in there. Value calculators, like how often we estimate people take out books and use programs and all that. But I'll do something that will be transparent, though.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Thank you,
I'm
Bruce.
good.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
So, Council, if I can get a motion to receive 1 and 2 from number 3, moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Gilliland. Seeing no comments, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So we'll move to number 4, and it will be presentation by Central York Fire Services 2019 operating grant and presentation by Fire Chief Ian Lang. Sorry, Chief, we made you wait this long. I know you're used to it because Newmarket usually makes you sit there for a long time, so.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just let me get all the tools there. Go left, go forward. Go right, go forward. Okay. As you're all aware, the Fire Protection and Prevention Act kind of lays out what we have to do for the community. Council sets the level of fire service within the community, and it's our job, the fire service. Want me closer? Sorry. It's our job in the fire service to make sure we deliver the type of service the community needs in a timely fashion. So that's what we're here to discuss tonight. You know that we are governed by the JCC, and we have 3 members from Aurora here tonight on the JCC, and 3 members from the town of Newmarket also on the JCC. From time to time, we come to full council and give everyone the opportunity to review what we are doing, and I will be coming forward in the next month or so with the annual report. This tonight is just about the budget submission. You'll see here from this basic pie chart that 84% of our operating budget is based on wages and benefits. That leaves us 16% to do everything else that the fire service needs to do. And that's from fixing fire trucks, putting fuel in fire trucks, repairing equipment, doing all of the things we do. That station supplies, clothing, dispatch. We do our dispatch service through Richmond Hill, so we pay them to dispatch our firefighters to incidents. Actually, 5 municipalities within the region of York use Richmond Hill as a dispatch service. So it cuts down considerably on our overhead. The wages and benefits outline that we have here, you can see that we have regular staff wage increases that have gone up about 3.9%. Now that includes step increases for 37 firefighters that are working their way through the different ranks within the fire service. We also, under contract, have a staff recognition complement for 3%, 6%, and 9%, which is in addition to their regular wage, and that happens at 8 years, 17 years, and 24 years. We do know that the benefits will increase about 3.9%. We recently received an arbitration award, and the benefits awarded by the arbitrator have been calculated to about that 3.9%. But we continue to manage our overtime costs, and I can say that our methods of managing overtime have been quite successful. I believe only one time in the last 6 or 7 years we've been actually over budget. Our budget has been reduced significantly from a standard $400,000 to $200,000, and we are still below budget, all in the way we manage our staffing. We do have the other operating budget, and we do things like put fuel in the fire trucks, as I said earlier, the repairs of the fire trucks, our dispatch services. This gives you the numbers of the increase, or in some cases decreases, support cost allocations, and asset replacement funds. There were 24 line items that only have a 2% inflationary increase, and 2 line items in the budget were reduced. We have several line items that have a history of being over budget, so we've taken steps to finance them a little better. Fleet repairs, it's like cars. You have everything that's electronic, and it's either working or it's not working. So we're at the point that we are spending a little more on our fleet repairs, and we have increased the budget, as you can see, in 2019. Although our 5th fire station hasn't been built, in 2011 we took over the old operations center from the town of Newmarket and transformed it into an interim training facility. So now we are carrying 5 facilities, even although that one of them is not an active fire station. We're hoping to move into the new fire station in Earl Stewart, on Earl Stewart, across from the Superstore. Mid-2020 is our target goal at this point, target date for this time. And although Mr. Downey has left as the project manager, I'm thinking if you have any questions on Station 4-5 between the CAO and I, we can handle that. So for the capital budget, we have the additional funding for Station 4-5. About $2.1 million is from ARF, and $2.7 million is from the development charges. We have several things in here: life cycle replacement of personal protective equipment. You've probably read in the news and be aware of legislation that cancer is a presumptive disease now for firefighters. They've traced a lot of that to wearing dirty gear or being exposed to the products of smoke where it's touching your skin. So we dress differently now than we did in years gone by, and it's much more important to make sure our crews keep as clean as possible. So we're getting a life cycle for the bunker gear. It's an 8-year life cycle, and after that we retire the gear and we get them in new stuff. The equipment repair replacement is about anything that wears out or gets damaged when we're doing our jobs. So nozzles and hoses and axes and things like that. That's the equipment repair part. The 10-year capital forecast, you can see that the ARF in the blue line is in deficit for the next several years. However, with the continued contributions we can get out of the hole, and we are in a positive situation, in a very good position from about 2022 onward. So the budget highlights, just to give you a heads up on that, we are within the funding targets as laid out. We are including staffing recommendations from the Fire Department Master Plan update, which includes an HR resource person and 4 additional firefighter positions. We have increased our contributions to meet the capital financing requirements. However, because of the funding formula we use for Aurora Newmarket, we use a 4-year allocation based on 3 factors. It's a rolling average. It's based on population, assessed value, and call volume in each community. And those 3 things are calculated and then done over a 4-year average. There will be a 0.45 change in the cost allocation for 2019. So that outlines quickly, before the bell, the budget request for Central York Fire Service, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you, Chief. Just quickly, just to remind everyone, so did Newmarket already pass the budget?
We had a committee of the whole meeting today, and there weren't any questions on the request for the budget allocation.
Thank you. Any questions, Council? Councillor Thompson.
Well, since you mentioned there were no questions earlier,
Hold on, Chief, I'm sure you're missing Councillor Thompson at JCC. So I just want to
just going back to the 2019 wages and benefits, you indicate that lieu time paid, the 2018 budget 29 total is going to go up by 17%, or $106,000. Can you just expand on that for me?
Chief?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. What happens is each firefighter is granted lieu time. In other words, for statutory holidays that they may be working, and they're paid overtime for those days. But because of our schedules, we may have to work them. So they're granted lieu time, and it's an option whether they take the days off when they can, or they can get cashed out at the end of the year. Now, we have increased our complement by 12 people over the last 3 years. And we find now that with the advent of the 24-hour shift, firefighters are at work 7 times in 28 days. So whether or not that is contributing to the number of firefighters that are actually cashing in their lieu time, but we have noticed a trend since the inception of the 24-hour shift that the expenditure has been going up. But again, over that same period of time, we have added 12 additional people.
And would you know off the top of your head, while the 2018 budget figure says $617,000, whether or not the actuals were above that number for 2018?
Chief?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, off the top of my head, no, I don't believe I have that, but I can get that to you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for all that you do and the department does. Basically the same question along that last point in terms of, and I remember when I was last on JCC, I would ask the same thing during budget to get that extra line of year-to-date projections. Again, to me, it's valuable information when you're budgeting. So I guess I'll look forward to that the next budget cycle. And in case anyone is wondering why I didn't ask the Cultural Center, it was in their program, that year-to-date projections. I'll ask when we get to JCC to do this the next
Councillor
time.
Gallo will ask when we're at JCC, I'm sure. But,
yes.
So.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. When we do our actual financial reporting, you will see in the Q4 report that will come out for the next JCC meeting, you will see actuals and the budgeted amounts. Both columns will be there. I believe Jason just received a copy for review this evening, so it'll be at the meeting next week.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Gallo? Okay. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Chief. Sorry to keep you waiting for so long. I'm a little tired. Maybe I missed this. On the standby callback, there's been a big reduction in that, 58, almost 59%. It's on the first chart.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, all I can say to you is we've carried $86,000 in that account for several years. Standby is, or callback, is a staffing form that we use. In days gone by, because so many people that work for the fire service lived locally, instead of expanding the fire service, if they had a serious call, they would page those firefighters out and they would respond back to the fire station, and then they would get paid overtime for a minimum of 3 hours. We found, again, since the advent of the introduction of the 24-hour shift, more people are living further away, is one, and for whatever reason, it's the dynamics or the demographics of the fire service, things have changed. So we've been working with the association for a number of years because callback and standby are in the collective agreement. So we just can't change the system without agreement. But we are in control of the budget. And as the numbers have been significantly less over the past several years, we've decided to reallocate that money to something else.
Councillor Gardner?
Sounds reasonable. With respect to, could you tell me what support cost allocation is?
Chief?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Support cost allocation basically is all the support services that we get from the town of Newmarket.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. That's all you wanted.
That's all she wanted.
Okay.
Maybe, and the asset replacement fund, I think I know why it's gone up, but could you just say?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Asset replacement fund is how we purchase our fire apparatus and large purchases. So we're putting money into a fund, and it's like a savings account. And we have contributed both from Aurora and Newmarket into that fund. And at this point, a standard fire truck is costing $700,000-800,000 plus the equipment on it. So it's a pretty expensive venture to go into. So what we're trying to do now is get the fleet up to date and then get all those expenditures looked after. And as you can see from the chart, the 10-year projection, we're in a very positive position in the next few years.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you very much for coming, Chief.
You're welcome.
Quick question. I learned something about the life cycle replacement and the equipment and the 8-year cycle and the cancer prevention. I didn't really know that. So thank you for informing me about that. I think it's really important that we protect our, firefighters from cancer. So I think it's really important. So I wanted to know this 71,000. Is it something that you replace all the equipment at once, or is this like a certain percentage where it's kind of spread out annually all the time? Could you clarify that a little bit?
Chief?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we don't do the whole department at a time. People are hired at different times, so their equipment ages out at different times. So we have the deputy chief here in charge of I call it stuff, but it's support services. He does everything but people. So there'll be so many sets of bunker gear, and they're about $2,000 a set. And then there's all the ancillary equipment that goes with it, the balaclavas. One of the most important things to do is protect your neck. Your neck is very thin skin, and the carcinogens that are in the toxic smoke that we are exposed to can get into your bloodstream quite quickly through here. So not only are we protecting against particulates, we're protecting those things from going into the skin and being absorbed by your body. So all of those things in conjunction, and it's just a rolling average. Each year we have so many sets that need replaced, and we're at the point that from a health and safety perspective, if you're exposed to all of those toxins at an incident, your gear is bagged and you have a dry, clean set at the station. And then you change into that and you wash your gear. So each station has an extractor system that cleans their gear so that the next time they're exposed to it, they have clean, dry gear again.
Councillor Gilliland?
Perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
Seeing no other questions, thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much for your support. and we'll see you at the JCC.
Council, if I can get a motion to receive and approve. Councillor Gilliland, second. Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Oh, Councillor Thompson.
Just so we're on the right page, it says the operating grant of $11,188,100. When I look at the sheets in our budget binder, it says $11,204,000. So I'm just wondering,
Good
why
catch,
do
Councillor.
I have two different numbers?
Mr. CL? Jason?
Through you, Mr. Chair. That's just a difference in timing. So the number you see in the departmental business plan was the number at that time when it was produced. The more current number is in the recommendation.
Councillor Thompson, so there's a reduction.
$22,000 less. I like this number better.
I agree with you. Good job, Chief.
The first
Okay.
one to come with a reduction.
Yeah, so all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Council, we were going to get into departmental business plans, but it said if time permitting, we're not going to do that tonight. We will continue at our next meeting, which is March 4th. So I will call for an adjournment. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo. All those in favor? Opposed, that carries. We are adjourned.